And we are live.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. Good evening, everybody.
Hello,
This is the joy of time zones. You could be at any time of the day or night. So greetings, whatever time it is at your house. This is Alex. I met Alex through YouTube not very long ago, and I will briefly allow her to introduce herself.
Hello. I am a very have a very small corner of the internet where I began to talk about books and stories, because one of my favorite things in the world is a good story told well. And I think that you can get a mixture of that happening, like a good story not told well, or an attempt at telling a bad story well, and it just doesn't fly as good.
Yeah.
So the combination of that, I think, is just one of the best things, and just to experience. So because of my love for stories in general, like books and games and telly, like, you know, I love Buffy, like it's my favorite thing ever. And I know you do too.
Joss fan.
Yeah.
That will lead me into another thing I will try and save for later, but
No, that's
fine.
We can definitely talk about some Buffy stuff. I'm totally there for that.
But that's not why we're here. We're here because Alex reached out and said, I want to talk about these books because I just read them and I want to. I was like, do you know what? Always up for a hop talk. So we finally got our schedules together, and here we are. Now, so first off, Alex, I will ask, when did you start your hob journey and what got you into it? Like, was it a shop? Was it what was it that made you go, oh, I'm going to read that?
So it was a year ago in June that I started to read Assassin's Apprentice, and funnily enough, I'd actually had what's the first one of the last trilogy? Is Assassin's Fate?
Of the last trilogy is Fool's Assassin.
Fool's Assassin. Okay, yeah. Of course it is. Yeah. So I had that one on my Kindle like for months, and I just kind of I know.
There's a klaxon going off in my head right now.
Yeah, don't do that. So that was actually on there, and I kind of, half read the synopsis thinking, okay, well, one day that'll be, kind of download it and that's that.
Yeah.
But yeah, one evening I was reading something else, and I have, issues with trauma and things like that. And the thing that I was reading wasn't good. I needed something to read, basically.
Yeah, that happens.
So I just started to read Assassin's Apprentice. I just had a sample of it on my Kindle.
Yeah.
I had no idea of the magnitude of the story, of the fan base. I had no idea you existed back then or anything. I didn't know it was like still this massive thing,
Yeah.
And I just really loved the beginning, like how he was talking about his writing and like reflecting that he was writing a story at the same time as you're reading it, and how it just flowed right into like him. Obviously there was a lot of mystery at the start of like, why is he there? He's kind of part of the royal family, but is he? And like he goes to is it Shrewd that he talks to first, and he's like given to Burrick?
Verity. The guard takes him to Verity.
Yeah, that's
Verity takes him to Burrick.
And I don't know, I just couldn't stop reading it. And then like the next day I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and I was just like, I cannot believe how wonderful this book is. Like I love it so much. And I was just talking to her about it. She was like,
no, that's wonderful.
She's not into fantasy at all. Like she's not a reader, like fiction or anything like that. So, but she let me talk at her about these books.
I think we can definitely all feel the common situation. What's the word?
Yeah.
We can all associate ourselves with that, because this is part of why BookTube exists. I mean, because it's the internet, and other people like these books, and I've got no one to talk to.
Yes.
And so we formed this community where in real life lives, we don't have someone to go, oh, I just read the most amazing thing, and have them. So to find BookTube is a wonderful thing, and I'm so glad that you have, because I know how cathartic it can be as you read to share that with people who understand.
Yes. Yeah.
You're like, oh, I know.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you found us.
Thank you. I'm glad too. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know it was here, so I was quite discovering.
A lot of people don't until we have that experience about whatever book it is that you just need desperately to talk about. And that's what obviously then leads to people going, is there anything online? And of course they then search for whatever book it is they're in love with, and then suddenly you're like, oh, there's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And then the trick is to find yourself a Discord. And I'm a huge proponent of asking people to just join a Discord.
Yeah.
Find a Discord that works for you. There's plenty of public BookTube Discords around.
Well, yeah, you're the one that introduced me to the
Fireside. So it gives you a great place to just kind of go, oh, I'm in chapter such and such, and this has just happened. And it's wonderful. But Discord is the best thing ever. So to confirm, before we talk anything specific, this is full spoiler.
Sure.
It's my channel, and I'm allowed.
Okay.
So we're totally doing full spoilers. Now, you said you started in June of last year.
Yeah.
And you read Farseer. Now, did you take a break after Farseer and go, I want to continue Fitz's story? Or did you just go, I don't care, I'm reading the next Witches Live Ships, that's just how it goes?
I did. I did it in the right order. I know that you're very passionate about it, as is Jack Bishop. And I read it in the right order. It did take a bit of figuring it out, there's obviously a diagram of all of them and kind of which way to kind of read them in, but I wanted to go in publication order because I figured that was how they are brought out, therefore that's how you're supposed to experience them.
Excellent. Just going to respond quickly here to Emily, who is lovely and shows up to lots of our streams and has come and talked about the books as well. Emily is lovely. Is there a Rhyme of the Elderlings Discord? I didn't know about that. There actually is one somewhere. I've been invited to it several times. I found it incredibly overwhelming. There are so many threads in there that I was like, I can't deal with that. What Alex is specifically referring to is the thread on the Fireside Discord, which is the Hob individual thread. So yes, there is. If you want to go and look for the Realm of the Elderlings Discord, I have in fact lost the link. But yeah, we're talking about a specific thread in this instance. So yeah, and Donald is going to take a break after each trilogy. Good move. I as you know, Alex, I mean, I know you've watched a fair few of the videos on here now. That I'm a fan. I don't push people to read them all in one go. Read a trilogy, take a break. It's fine. Take a break. You don't have to just stay in this world because it can get quite heavy.
I tried.
You need a break. And the story has big gaps in it between the trilogies. So it kind of works to take a break. You don't feel like you've missed anything. So that's good. And Emily's about to start the reread this month. Excellent.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, but I have found that a lot of people people resist going into live ships because it isn't Fitz. So I'm really glad that you did just jump into that corner without really spending too much time with it. How did you find the shift in going from that first person POV into a more common sort of multiple storyline?
It threw me. I don't know if it was so much the difference in POV, but the finishing Assassin's Quest and going into Ship of Magic, I was just like, what is going on? Who are these new people? What is these boats? What is happening? Why are we on a beach? Why? I just didn't understand it. And I had to read the first chapter twice. I was just like, what is happening? These books are supposed to be really good. I'm going to stick with it. But to be honest with you, Terry, I read half of the book and I was just like, what is this hype about? Why is it so good? I just wasn't into it. But the second half of Super Magic, I was just like, it blew my mind. I was just like, I was in it then. I was invested.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But it was different. I was not ready for it to be such a different approach to just telling of the story. And then I was just like, are we in the same realm? We're supposed to be realm of the Elderlings, but everyone's different and we're on the thing. There's disturbance and what's going on.
Again, is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of join a Discord, because it can really help with your expectations going into something, for someone to say, okay, it's really different. Don't panic. It's all new people. It will come together. Just hang in there. So again, I also read it on my own for a long time, so I know what it is to read in isolation.
I know.
It's a very different experience. It really is. It's a very it's very difficult to explain. If you're in here watching this, you're part of BookTube, so you're probably familiar with what I'm trying to express. Of trying to process these incredibly rich stories with no one to bounce off, and it helps to sort of get your own thoughts in order when you can do that. So going back to your experience with Farseer, a lot of people love Farseer because they really connect with Fitz. Was that your experience, that Fitz was like, oh my God, he's my person?
Oh,
no,
it wasn't.
Okay. And did you connect with anyone? There you go. I told you Evie would show up, but she's not going to stay. Okay.
Ah, okay. Just popped in to say hi. Hi, Evie.
But so did you connect with anyone in particular, or was it just like, I'm really enjoying this little?
It was the whole story. I think it was just so different to anything that I'd ever read. And honestly, I think these books made me more of a reader than I was before. And I'd been looking for ways before. I read quite a lot in the early 2000s, early to mid sort of 2000s. And then my life changed, and then, it wasn't something that I was doing. And then in 2013, I developed chronic illness, and then it made, being able to read physical books just pretty much impossible. I would try so much, but it didn't really work. And then I got my Kindle, and I was just like, okay, game changer, complete
really
game
is.
changer. It was so accessible.
Yeah.
I don't know, just it was just so. It was life changing, and then reading and then finding Assassin's Apprentice, that changed my life. Yeah, it makes me a bit emotional because it was like I've been hoping to find a way to get back into reading for so many years. And then that was it, and then I was just hooked, and I was just like, okay, there's 16 of these. I'm gonna read these books because they're fantastic. Kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they really are. And I love that you said that the Kindle's made it so much more accessible, because it does. And you mentioned also the chronic illness and reading, because while I don't have chronic illness as such, my mental health issues mean I very rarely leave my house, because
me too.
It's too hard out there. Okay,
it is.
It's too hard, and I don't have time for most people, which is why BookTube people, you are so special to me, because I like you and I will expend my energy with you. But my Kindle is my window into other experiences, is to feeling all of those different emotions in a safe place, because I'm at home. So I love that you say that Kindle was helped with that accessibility. And for myself, I know it helps for when I'm feeling very isolated. So I'm hoping that that's done similar things for you.
Yeah.
Did you find, because I know I do, I very much resonate with the isolation in Fitz's heart. Like he feels very cut off from everybody. Yeah. And that resonates with me. Was that a similar thing for you, or were you like quite a lot of readers and you're like, oh my God, Fitz, you're great, but Jesus, get over yourself?
No.
There's quite a few readers who do.
Yeah, but I think that comes from a lack of experience of, of isolation, and unfortunately, isolation isn't something that, fortunately, real isolation isn't something that most people experience.
No, that's true.
So yeah, being chronically ill and being at home most of the time, I barely leave my house either. Yeah, there was so many things that that Robin Hood would like write about that Fitz would be going through, and I'd be like, does she have an experience with chronic illness or know somebody with it? Because that some of the stuff that she was saying was so personal. It's just like, she could be writing about my life.
Yeah.
Yes, but absolutely. I found those bits some of the most emotional, to read, because they were so relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that it's one of her gifts, is being able to really connect with you on some level.
Yeah.
And it is a joy to read. Was there a moment in the books where you had like a moment of clarity, where you're like, oh my God, big picture here, something's connecting? What did you have an aha moment at all during Farseer?
In what way? Do you mean like for the whole story, or for my personal life, or what?
Either. I mean, for me, it was when I realised the connection between Fitz and Verity and Burrick, the three of them together. When they came together, there was an almost audible click of, yes, this is the core of something important.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I'm getting at, is that at what point did you get this is something bigger than just this trilogy? This is a thing.
I don't know, because
did you have one?
It was. I mean, it's been a while. My memory's not great as well.
We remember the emotions.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know in terms of like a specific moment, but a general consistent curiosity of the characters and just how Fitz's life was going, because obviously in the early books, like there's parts with nosebleed and Molly, there's that bit, and then he's just being a kid, and then there's all the training of with Shade of like how to be an assassin, and then there's the stuff with Galen and like schooling with Patience, and there was just so much to it that made him feel obviously so human.
Yeah.
and just intrigued me. And then obviously with the kind of, I don't know if they're not so much side characters, are they? Like, but the other people, like
she does do them so well, which is rare from a first person POV to get these fully realized characters. And some of her secondary characters in the Fitz books are some of my most beloved people in literature. I adore Patience. I would die for Patience. I adore Ketrican. There are characters in these books who you only ever see through Fitz's eyes, and they are just the most remarkable people. You mentioned that they're not really secondary characters, and they're not, because you get a sense that they have their own lives, and that they're the main character of their own story to some degree. Do you have a favorite sort of secondary or tertiary character?
The Fool is my favorite character.
Okay.
Hands down. Hands down. I love him. I love the Fool. Oh my God, I just love him. I love his playfulness and his mystery, but also how he's not, I guess, as mysterious as he lets himself be perceived as being, because he actually gives a lot away, but people Fitz takes it as a joke so much. I'm like, Fitz, he's telling you something real here. pay attention, because
Yeah.
there's more to it than that. And he's just like, oh, he's just saying that. The Fitz is the fool's in the fool. You know,
Yes.
nothing real
It's
going
like,
on there. And I'm like, no, there is.
it's like, come on, Fitz. At this point in the story, you know he's not talking bollocks. Come on. He just admits that there might be something to it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he's always in denial to some degree.
Yeah, hugely. It's quite frustrating.
But
yeah, definitely my favourite.
Yeah, he the Fool is definitely one of the hook points for a lot of readers. They're like, no, I need to know more about this character. I know some readers, and I'm going to call Mike out at Mike's book reviews, really struggled with Assassin's Quest. He got over drinking elf bark tea really early. Couldn't let it go. How was your experience with Assassin's Quest? Because some people really do struggle with the pace.
Yeah, I know. I had to let it simmer for a bit. You know, because it was. I think it's really, really easy, and it annoys me at the same time that people say nothing happened in it. I'm like, plenty happened. Like, so much happened, and you know, like, oh, it was boring, but it wasn't boring. They were on a quest. You have to remember, they're on a quest. They're traveling. There's going to be repetitive things, and part of, you know, they're going to find places to camp or things to eat or drink or whatever. You know, it's just part of it. But also, I try to pay attention when I'm, well, just enjoying a story, especially if it's got like you can tell some series, like with Buffy and that, you know how you can tell that there's more going on than it might first appear.
Yeah, so, you're like, no, I'm being told this for a reason.
Yeah. There's more here. There's layers going on.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just remember reading that and just trying to take note of so many things. And I know that in one of your, I don't know if it was a live stream or just a video that you made, but you said that Assassin's Quest is actually one of the best rereads because it speaks so much that happens further on. And as I'm reading through them, I'm noticing, like, oh yeah, they said about that in Assassin's Quest. You know, there's like already like there's like throwbacks to stuff. So, and I think that I love that kind of thing in storytelling. You know, when there's little like foreshadowing of like this thing happening, or I just love it, the depth of it. You know, and then it's because it's not just the characters that have the depth; it's the way that the story's told, and just the, like, even with the stone dragons and how that then goes back to the Fool, you know, how we got to the wherever it was where they were going to go and get Ice Fire, you know.
And another one of Fitz's, that Fool being the Fool. No, honey, he told you how he got there. The world building is one of the most quietly impressive things I find in the story, in that the history's all there. And again, the reread value of Assassin's Quest is through the roof because nothing's hidden from you. You're being shown everything. You're not going to later go, oh, I should have seen that. You're going to read it and go, I did see that, but I didn't know what it meant.
Right.
And so nothing's hidden from you. Everything's on the page.
Okay.
And you know it because you're reading it going, I've been told this for a reason. This is too specific to just be they walked through a bit of forest. I'm being told something here that I just don't have context for. And that speaks to an understanding of the world that she's writing, that that bit's important because that's going to connect to something later. So you know, that's how it is. Emily's saying that she struggled with Assassin's Quest because it was her first quest book and she didn't know how slow some of those could be. That's one advantage for me being so old, is that having, you know, I grew up with stories and old stories. I grew up with old writers. I grew up with quest stories and fairy tales. Fairy tales almost always had a quest portion.
Yeah.
And one of the things I loved about Assassin's Quest is it ticks a lot of those boxes. You have a young person on a quest to do something important, and along the way they encounter tasks and we see this with Fitz, where he has to discover something about himself or the overarching story to succeed. So he has to learn the value of his people. He has to register that they're important too, and what he's doing is going to affect them. He has to learn the depth of his world. And he does on his journey. He realizes how many people this whole thing is going to impact. It's not just about him.
Yeah.
And he grows as a person on that journey, which is a very, very traditional storytelling element. And that the people that you help along the way who perhaps slowed you down or seemingly put hurdles in your path are important to succeeding in the end. And we see that with Holly's bird sort of telling him that he's hunted. You see that with Small Ferret, who serious goated character. I love Small Ferret. He gets like 2 lines and he's the hero of the whole piece. And
so much so.
Only because he had to be interrupted by Rolf. You don't remember Small Ferret? Trap.
No.
Small Ferret. He's warning Fitz about Regal's and Will's attempt to trap him in Tradeford. And so Fitz aborts mission, and Small Ferret then hides in Regal's belongings. So at the very end of Farseer, the mystery is after Regal comes around and it's like, no, this is our real queen prince, yay, I love them, is killed mysteriously by a rodent in his room who seems to have danced gleefully in the blood. How random is that? And I'm like, Small Ferret, he did it.
Yeah, I know.
Small Ferret.
But it's been since I've been to that I learned that. But I mean, I know that he killed him, but but there was more to him.
But and that's the thing, is that having had to stop and help Black Rolf in the market, which detoured him from his direct line of quest, gave him people who would then help him further along in the quest. And that's literally how the traditional stories go, is that if you hadn't helped, you'd have been in the shit right now. And that's kind of how that goes. And again, world building, you're getting this sense of a larger community that until now Fitz has been unaware of. And that was an important time we learned with Night Eyes, because Night Eyes learns that, oh, okay, I can be also separate and I can keep some things for myself. Which was an important step for Night Eyes. And obviously everybody loves Night Eyes. If you don't love Night Eyes, what the hell are you doing on my channel? You don't belong. Seriously.
Don't reread them.
You read it wrong. When Fitz is again in denial about bonding with Night Eyes, what were your sort of thoughts around the way Cub was interacting with Fitz in that? Did you have an opinion, or were you too like, oh my god, I love Night Eyes? Although he didn't have a name at the time. But
when they first met, like in the marketplace,
just in general, because it's an animal companion relationship that is very different to a lot that I've seen in fantasy. So I'm always intrigued how people feel about it.
Well, obviously when their relationship started, it was very aggressive, and they were both coming from such a traumatized place that it was like, is he just going to be mean to this animal? Because I'm not having that. For one, like, you better behave, Fitz, because if reading this book and behave, otherwise I'm out of it. so there was that, but I was just, seeing them sort of get comfortable together, and then I was just thinking, okay, they're gonna get witted together, for lack of a better word, but they're gonna bond, and they're gonna they'll get there, but I didn't know how, and I, obviously up until then, all I'd heard was bad stuff about don't whip with the animals because it's bad, from Burrick and everything. And I think I saw some sort of spoiler about Night Eyes, just knowing that there was someone in the story called Night Eyes that was significant. I think that's pretty much all I knew.
Yeah.
So I was just like, is this going to be Night Eyes? And I kind of, if I hadn't had that, obviously I would have had a different journey with it.
Yeah.
But that did obviously just, skew my view a little, because I kind of saw it coming. But I really enjoyed seeing how they did develop. That it wasn't just this one-dimensional relationship of, they're both traumatized, therefore we're just gonna have a really toxic environment and relationship. Like
yes. It happens.
Yeah. But he was looking after him, and obviously he kept him separate for a while in the ruins or whatever it was, like the shed or whatever.
Yeah, shepherd's cottage.
Yeah. But do you think that was a bit of a foreshadowing to Fool's Errand, because they ended up in a cottage together?
Possibly. And there is a yearning for that simplicity in both of them. That's literally why Fool's Errand is my favorite book. The first sort of 200 pages of Fool's Errand, genuinely nothing happens, and I would happily read that forever.
No, I love it.
My absolute favorite literary experience is that time in the cottage. But if we sort of try and take it in order, one of the reasons that I'm very adamant that, sorry, the cat's just been let back into my room. Hello, Moshi. One of the reasons I'm so adamant that people not read Live Ships first is obviously the discovery in Live Ships about the dragons. And if you read Live Ships first, then going into Farseer, you already know about dragons. And so the quest part of Farseer, which is, a significant chunk of page time, doesn't have purpose. You already know the outcome of this. And as the story unfolds, you're just going, they got it wrong. And for me, that takes away so much from Farseer, because what they learn is relevant to the overall story. But it just is diminished if you've read Live Ships first. There's the discovery of the stone dragons and what it took to wake them was one of the most magical things I think I've ever read. Do you have, or I don't even know if you remember any of the stone dragons well enough to say, do you have a favorite of the stone dragons?
No.
No?
No, I don't remember them individually enough to remember them. But obviously, Girl on a Dragon is the one that we kind of hear about again. But and the one at the end of Fool's Fate that battles Icefire, but that's not one of the ones.
She's real, because we meet her in Live Ships.
Stone one.
The stone one on Aslavjal is the one the Pale Woman has created.
That's what I mean.
Out of blocks. So that one's not in the Stone Garden. That one never went there.
No. Okay.
That one was formed from the stones that she'd put in the white ships as ballast, and sucked up all of the Six Duchies' memories of what previously had been the Forged.
I love that.
Which is incredible storytelling.
To
segue into Live Ships, to get, what's the word I'm looking for? To get more of the value of memory that we've seen. Like in Farsi, we get it. As people have lost their memory, they've lost their humanity, they've lost that connection to their communities. And then we get in live ships, we get the serpents who their memories have gone, they're becoming less sentient, they're becoming bestial. That's another one. I'm having, had your thoughts on Assassin's Quest. I'm guessing you had a similar thing with the serpents of they're here for a reason, okay?
Yeah.
Or were you going, like a lot of people do?
Yeah, it was confusing. And I had trouble kind of keeping up with who was who and stuff like that. But I kind of gathered that it didn't matter all that much in terms of the individuals of the serpents. It was more just about their story and how I was quite proud of myself because I figured out that the lack was the air and the plenty was the sea.
Which
so I figured that before this stated. But otherwise, no, I just thought it was really interesting how they went from, the serpents to the people on the live ships, because they had such different perspectives of each other. That they were pests. They wouldn't leave boats alone, and like they'd throw over their unalived people to feed them. And they would be like, well, we've got to follow this ship, and they didn't exactly know why. So like trying to remember this whole thing and
knowing there was some kind of kinship and
not realizing obviously that it was because it was part dragon. That's why they were connected, but didn't quite know why.
So at what point did you sort of get to that in live ships? Did you sort of think, how are they connected? I can see they're connected. When for you was it like, oh, I get it? When did that click for you?
I do remember.
I always think her timing is so good, because as you realize it, it's beginning to be explained to you.
Yes, exactly. I think that's kind of what happened. I think it was when there was a lot of like battling and stuff like that, and they were feeding them, the unlike people, and things like that. But there was the more that you learn in between the more that you got from their two different perspectives, I started to get it, and realize, okay, well, because if you just you read it without any substance, you just think that they're not even the same beings that they're being spoken about. That they're just these things that are by this boat, and they're just like, oh right, they're the same ones that are looking after these people and thinking, what are they doing as well?
So because as you say, that different perspective is really telling.
Absolutely. And the more that I noticed that, the more I enjoyed reading the parts with the serpents and their whole journey. So that, I'm sure that would be really interesting on a reread. Just go back and see what their experiences are.
You'll one of the wonderful things in the reread is you begin to notice how much the serpents actually individually impact the people on the ships. Because they do influence behavior. So that's a really fascinating one when on the reread, because you're able to see it, because you've got far more of the context of what they're capable of. You can see that they're doing it already. But I mean, we're talking serpents and live ships. One of my most favorite beautiful Easter eggs is when we open, as you said, we're on a beach. We don't know these people. We're on a beach with Kenneth. He's gone to have his fortune told and have witnessed. He's like, no, I know what I'm going to do. I need someone to hear it. And he's found his treasures on the beach. And as he's being told, you can't take these treasures, in a moment of petty nastiness, he crushes one of these treasures. And the other says to him, the sea will take back what you have have destroyed. And that's the leg that the serpent bites off.
I know. I've heard you say about that before.
And it's just such a beautiful little piece of connectivity in the story.
I know. And
the relationships that you see form as a result of that, because obviously then he needs the surgery from Wintro. He's vulnerable. He's open to the connections that form because of it. There's a lot of insight in those chapters. It's a weird, I'm trying to find a way to phrase the question. Is your experience of that scenario when Kenneth's just had his leg amputated and he's adrift in the dragon dreams, and Wintro has to bring him back?
I didn't think he was going to survive.
Mm-hmm.
For one, I thought he was going to die from infection.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, just how awfully he treated what was her name?
Etta?
Yeah, the one that he rescued but didn't mean to.
Yes.
from the brothel or whatever.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh damn, you're on my ship now. What am I going to do with you?"
Yeah. But again, the perspective, and this is why Kenneth is one of my favorite characters. I think of all of the villains I've ever read, he's possibly the most nuanced, in that in his head, as you say, he's thinking, "Oh God, what am I going to do with you now?" Yeah. But the men around him are like, "Oh, this is amazing. He's such a hero."
Yeah.
And he's making an impression of himself that just isn't who he is.
Yeah.
And so that really clearly points out that how people view you can be completely different to who you are.
Yeah.
But that it is a fascinating relationship that Kenneth forms, though, with Wintro. I find a lot of the themes in in Realm of the Elderlings is around these cyclical relationships, you know, this generational trauma, if you like, where you've got boys who are growing up without their fathers, or don't have healthy relationships with their fathers. So, you know, we've Fitz without chivalry, we've got Shade, who doesn't have a son and is sort of being a father figure, Burrick, who doesn't have a son, sort of being a father figure, didn't have a good relationship with his father. And then we've got Wintro, who, however much Kenneth is the villain, I hate Kyle more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
So for Wintro to then be treated with, not even with kindness, but just with some open-handed fairness from Kenneth. I mean, it's awful that anybody has a better relationship with Kenneth than with their own parent.
Yeah.
But he does, and it makes a significant difference for Wintro.
Yeah.
I mean, reading it through, even just for the first time, those themes are really obvious. Was there anything about that struck you in terms of the generational trauma? Because you're seeing it at that point as a cycle.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, obviously, I mean, I can't remember specifically at that time when I read it, but learning about Kenneth's trauma and, you know, his past and his childhood trauma and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the cycles repeat themselves of then kind of inflicting the abuse onto, you know, the younger child or whatever, because you haven't dealt with it yourself, and like breaking them cycles sort of thing. So obviously there was that like repetitive thing, and like Wintro just completely lapping it up and being like, well, he likes me, therefore I'm valuable and I have purpose, because obviously he never gave Kyle, obviously just made him feel like he was completely a waste of space and didn't care that he wanted to be in the monastery, and just, you know, got him out of there as quick as he could. So I think that, you know, seeing those two relationships you know, side by side but also growing together was really interested, and I really felt for Wintro so much throughout these books, and I really loved the Madship, mostly because of Wintro's story in it.
Yeah,
you know.
because he
But yeah,
does sort of come into his own in that one.
yeah, definitely. I think that he, I don't know, he was just such a key character for me for that trilogy. With other people as well.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting him to stand out as much as he did.
Okay, so you know, we mentioned earlier in Farseer there not really being one particular person that you resonated with. Would it be fair to say that Wintro was that for you in Live Ships?
Don't know. I don't know. I mean, I really wanted Althea to kill Kenneth. There's that.
Yeah.
I was rooting for that.
Oh yeah.
I was like, why didn't she get that? Oh my god. Derry, why didn't she get that?
Because that story isn't finished yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's an ongoing thread.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
There's more to come.
And Malta, she blew my mind. That whole story.
Yes.
Fantastic. I hated her. I was just
So
like,
much.
Kyle, go away. And then she was all on her own and had no other choice but to just grow. It was like, wow.
Yeah. Oh, look, hey, the world knows I've reread these a million times, and yet I still hate Malta at the beginning of Live Ships. Even knowing where she's going to end up, I'm still like, oh my God, you're the most painful person on the planet, and I want to slap you into next week. You know. Oh.
Yeah. Just how she sees people and manipulating them, and
yeah.
Awful.
And some people do find that her evolution is too fast. I don't, but I've reread it so many times, so I can see what's triggering it every step along the way. How did you feel, though, with just the one read through? Did it seem jarring?
No.
Was there a moment where you were like, this is the moment where she's shifted?
Yeah, yes. When, wait a minute, was that her? Yeah. Wait. I think I'm getting her confused with... When, yeah. So, Kenneth and... What's the name? No, it's not Nettle, obviously. What's the... Etta?
Yeah.
And... Wasn't there something that happened that with Malta, I might be completely wrong, like they were really thirsty on the boat, so they drank some of the water, or one of them did, and then she ended up dying. Was that with Malta?
This was with the satrap, when Malta was with the satrap on the Live Ship.
So yeah, it was
that.
that.
They picked up by the Jamalians after fleeing Trehog, and the satrap was really thirsty, and Malta knows not to drink river water, and he's insistent that you'll get me a drink. So she's like, okay. And so bathes him in the water, which of course is caustic to the skin, and she doesn't stop the paramour drinking it, and the paramour later dies. So you do have the right character and the right behavior. So yes.
Okay. But it was her like realizing like, oh, she's not going to make it. The way that I survive here is to become her in Kenneth's eyes, or the satrap's eyes. The satrap, wasn't it? That to me, that was the turnaround. And I was just like, okay, she's got it, she's got it switched on. She knows what she's got to do. She's got to, she knows how to survive. She's going to figure it out. I didn't know how it was going to play out, and I knew it was obviously quite dangerous for her to do that.
Yeah.
But going from such a spoiled little brat to that was awesome.
Yes. No, it is. And it is that is one of the key moments when she realizes that to survive in that situation, she has to fulfill a role that people understand and not buck.
Yeah.
What, and insist that she gets what she wants. She's like, well, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
I have to play this game.
Exactly. And that growing up, that switch that happened, because she hadn't played it like that before. So
no, she hadn't. And it's a wonderful, it's actually, again, I think that, spoiler alert, I think Hobbs incredible. We're given it very cleverly at the end of Ship of Magic, the Mad Ship, with Malta being drowned in the memories. And then we go into Ship of Destiny with them fleeing Treehawk, where that drowning in memories, we've heard, you know, through all of these books, that is a death sentence. It drives you completely. Well, you're a drooling idiot and you're done.
Yeah.
It's drowned in memories really fully, like not even sort of second or third hand through memory stones.
Yeah.
Literally directly from a dragon, drowned in memories, and she's fine.
Yeah.
Because she's selfish enough to hang on to herself and go, no, I am Malta, and me. And she's held on to herself and kept the core of herself as she's being given literally generations worth of memory.
Yeah.
And to have experienced, as though she was there, so many years of reality, of growth, of knowledge, of this is what life is. And it's easy to kind of go, oh, she escaped the dragon. And okay, great, yay, go. And then she's dealing with chaos and disaster at the beginning of Ship of Destiny, and surviving with the satrap on the Jamalian ship, because Kiki's going to die, and she has to learn the skills Kiki had to navigate that situation socially. It's easy to overlook how important all of those memories were in Malta growing up. She got an awful lot of growing up done in that instance. She got given, it was like the Matrix. She got downloaded grown up. You know, it was really quite astonishing. And it took me quite a long time to really connect it all together. And the minute I sort of went, oh, Matrix, she just got okay, now I know this. It all made sense. And so I always completely understand when people say, oh, it happened really fast. I'm like, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
But as you say, there's also this situational element that makes sense. There are so many moments, particularly for female people in the world, where they realize how vulnerable they are unless they behave a particular way to protect themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that most female readers identify with that moment of realization where I'm not free to just behave how I want.
Yeah.
Because that's dangerous to me.
Yeah.
I have to conform to these set of behaviors to keep myself safe. So Malta's realization of that moment resonates with most readers. Like, yep, that's your grown-up moment.
Yep.
You've realized
that
you have to do this.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
It's, and I mean, you'll get this when you move through into the Rain Wilds. There's a lot to be said in Robin Hobb's writing around agency. Not so much in the Fitz books, because he has a reasonable amount of agency just by virtue of being a bloke, really. Because there is that element of feminism to the writing.
Absolutely.
But we see it with Althea, and we see it with Malta, and we see it with Ronica and with Kefria as well. The limits put on them by society and the agency to make the decisions that are necessary. And Malta realizing that. Very grown-up moment. Oh, I don't have agency. I have to work with the system. To, as she becomes this elderling queen, going, okay, I'm now officially outside the system. And now I do have agency. And now I can advocate for other people with no voice. And you see that. You see her stepping up and going, okay, there might not be many of us yet, but there's going to be more.
But yeah.
And I think that it speaks beautifully to real world situations.
Yeah.
That, yeah, you might not have a voice right now.
Yeah.
You might one day, and it's up to you then to use that.
Absolutely.
Malta does that really well with that selfishness, that inner selfishness of no.
Yeah.
I'm going to be awesome. Thank you very much. And she is rather wonderfully. Her partner in Rain, he revels in her courage.
Yes, he does.
Clearly really proud of her strength.
Yeah.
Which is just wonderful, because there's a lot of toxic masculinity in live ships, particularly Kyle. But
how do you really feel, Derry?
Jake Bishop rather wonderfully, and I stole it from him, and I've owned it, I've stolen it from him, did a tier ranking of characters, and Kyle got put in the lowest tier, which was yeet into the sun. Yeah, that is totally what I want to do with Kyle.
Yeah.
Just yeet him into the sun.
That's all he deserves. Yeah.
Because he did have opportunity, in the same way as Malta did, to think on himself.
Yeah.
Spent plenty of time in a dungeon. He could have thought on himself and gone, maybe I could have done something different. And so there was hope, I think, in quite a lot of readers, and I know I felt it the first time I read, that has he realised the fault in himself?
Yeah.
Will he be better now? No.
No. I was waiting for it. I was just like, oh, he's coming. I didn't think we were going to see him again. I thought they were just going to leave him there. Which would have been fine. But you know, then when they did bring him back, I was just like, yeah, is he going to have any growth done? But no. And yeah, being starved and trained up and taught him nothing at all.
Exactly.
Just awful person. And obviously there are people like that have no interest whatsoever in self-reflection and self-growth. They're just so stuck being where they are, and that's fine, and everyone else is the problem. Which is obviously what he thought. He didn't know what he was doing wrong, did he? Like with his family.
No, because as DK Moon says here now in the chat, Kyle stands by his bad decisions.
Yes, he does.
He refuses to see that he might be wrong. Even in the face of his clear abject failure. But returning to Keyhole Island to unknowingly fetch Kyle and Mother.
Yeah, Mother.
The revelation of Kenneth and who he is to the life ships and the story in general and to Paragon. How did that moment feel for you? Because it's one of the most wonderful reveals of exactly who Kenneth is.
That was heavy and emotional. I found it really I just could not. I was just so glued to the story of the page, you know, just like, wow, I did not see that coming. And knowing that Kenneth was like partly forged, and done because of his pain and his trauma, and that Paragon took that from him, because he did, didn't he?
Yeah,
Paragon took it from him. You know, to save him having to deal with it, because obviously his dad made him take his eyes out of his own boat and just like, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
How messed up is all of that? And just what was your question? I don't even know.
Basically just the reveal of the fact that Kenneth was a Ludluck and was part of these trader families. And you know, that Paragon was his family ship, who was taken by pirates, that Egrot was using him as a pirate ship, and to get rid of his eyes so that he could never reveal where the treasure was. You know, that there was the connection to, and like I said earlier about Assassin's Quest, all of it's on the page. The reread, you'll see immediately that Kenneth is a Ludluck.
Okay.
It's not hidden from you at any point. but you don't make the connection because you aren't
Is it
told.
mentioned? Is it mentioned when Paragon is still shipwrecked? Because I remember
You're told
something then.
the family story
Yeah.
about who had Paragon the last time he left Bingtown, and you're kind
Yes.
of left to go, oh, okay, whatever. And when you meet Kennett, there's nothing overt that goes, they're connected, they're connected. You start to feel that they're connected. You're like,
Yeah.
you know too much. Kennett knows too much about live ships. There's clearly something there.
Yeah.
The clue is in Kennett's insistence, the luck in my name.
Oh, that's
And
what that
so
was.
all the way through, he's telling you, I live by the luck in my name.
Yeah.
He's telling you from the get-go, I'm a Ludluck. And it's only with the revelation that you would get with Mother's story that you're like, oh my God.
Oh.
So clever. Because again, nothing's being hidden from you. It's not like we're keeping a
Yes.
secret. It's
No.
all there. The pieces are all on the page.
Yeah.
And like I said again, the reveal is timed really well with the clues, and that you're just getting the clues closer together and closer together and closer together, and then all of a sudden it comes together, and as you realize with the coming together, you're like, you get it definitively that yes, that's who Kennett is to Paragon. That's who Paragon is to Kennett.
Yeah.
This is the connection.
Yeah.
There's
that was amazing.
Magical coming together of storylines. And you know, as we said earlier with secondary characters, Mother's only on page for like 3 pages.
Yeah.
And I remember Mother. She's a beautiful character.
Yeah.
I really feel for. She's clearly had a lot of trauma. She's clearly had a lot of pain, and yet she still has so much love in her heart for her son, who she knows has done awful things, because he goes and admits it to her. She's his confessional to some degree. She knows what he's done and loves him anyway. And there's a beauty to that.
Yeah. Definitely wasn't expecting that.
No.
For her to be like that, you know, I thought, you know, considering Kennett and how vile a lot of his personality is, you know, I thought that, you know, obviously part of that has to be from his childhood, because that's what happens with people. But just, you know, then this really loving person, and she took in
yes, the slaves that came.
Obviously Kyle, and there was a couple of other people. One of them was pregnant, I think.
Yeah, you got a large gentle giant of a slave, a reasonably traumatized woman who didn't really engage much with other people, and Ankle, who had been so badly infected while she was chained up as a slave. And Mother takes them in and loves them and cares for them, and you know, is, as you say, this wonderful person. Despite the fact that a pirate has killed her husband and stolen her child, abused her child horribly, done this awful thing, and taken her tongue. She can't express any of this. And it's still this lovely woman. It's just magical. You know, it is, you know, quite a beautiful bit of story. And the tragedy, of course, is the damage that it did to Kennett. Making him what he became. I know when I read Live Ships, and it's one of the things I remember very clearly about my first read, was I felt betrayed in Ship of Destiny. There's a point where we all know he reaches that he becomes irredeemable at that point. You're like,
oh yeah,
you did meet that. I felt betrayed. I was so hurt and angry reading, not only because of the resonance with what was happening on the page, but because I wanted it to be a redemption arc I was so convinced it was going to be a redemption arc that I felt betrayed. I was like, you've let me down.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And to not get that redemption arc, I was really angry with Kenneth, not with Rob.
Yeah.
Because logic has no part of this. I was really angry with Kenneth, you know, on top of the rage I was feeling just as a woman reading, you know, what he was doing. And I'm always struck by how daft that is, having spoken to readers like yourself who have gone, why were you thinking that this was a redemption arc? He's clearly a villain from the start. What were you on? So I am interested to know, did you know definitively, no, he's broken fundamentally, there's no coming back? Or
that
were
kind
you,
of
like me, deluded and hoping?
I didn't hear the whole question because it froze for a minute.
No.
Sorry.
It's all right. I was basically wanting to know if you knew from the beginning that no, he's just a bad guy, there's no coming back, or were you deluded and living in hope like I was?
I believe in the thing of, you know, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. So there's that part of it. There's also this other part of an unhealthy level of hope. And, you know, perhaps delusional of hoping people will be better than they're showing you. And because he was, you know, kind of doing good things, but thinking that knowing that he wasn't actually doing it for a good reason, you had that internal insight. There was that, but also with the whole thing with Althea, and it's obviously so uncomfortable, like the entire thing is just completely, I don't have the words for it.
No.
I don't want to sound like I am the only word I can think of is apologize for him and not even go into that part of it at all.
No.
But what I'm thinking is just that he tried not to the first time.
Yeah.
So
he
I
knew
was
it
thinking,
was wrong.
okay, yeah, he did. And I was just like, okay, is he not gonna then? Like, please don't do that. Please do not do that. I don't want to read it. I don't want you to do that. Don't do that to her. Just no. And as soon as it did, I was just like, he's out of it. I'm done with him now.
Everyone's like, no, you're dead to me.
Yeah. No, oh, so disgusting. It's giving me chills.
Yeah.
So I think a bit of a mixture, but I was really hoping that he wouldn't do that, and I was hoping that I wouldn't have to read that.
Yeah.
But also that he was talking to Paragon at the same time, and he was warning him not to do it either, wasn't he? He was just like, don't go there. Like, that's not a good idea. That's not sort of why she's here. And control yourself.
I mean, part of that was having just seen Paragon and ordering him burned. There was a weird power trip going on there, which I think was really important, because that is what that level of assault is about. It's power, nothing else. And I think, you know, it is a really difficult part of the story to read. I have, you know, people on here know I've been through something very similar myself. I think it's written incredibly well in terms of reality of the experience. And I've said I appreciate the fact that it's not actually graphic. Despite the fact that we're in Althea's POV, we're not getting physical details. We're not being told what is being done to her person. We're getting her emotions. We're getting her sense of vulnerability. We're getting her fear. We're getting her shame, which is that emotional trauma that is being handed to her. This is my trauma being given to you. And, this is what trauma is ultimately. It's not necessarily about the physical damage to your person. It's the mental baggage that comes with it.
Yes.
And that for me was done so incredibly well.
Yeah.
What I also appreciate is it's been built to throughout the series, this omnipresent pressure on women to avoid being assaulted, that the pressure's on the women to not be assaulted. And this is the behaviors you have to do to do your best not to avoid it.
Yeah.
We see it with Malta in echoing the behaviors that Kiki taught her to, say certain things and behave in certain ways, and they'll leave you alone. And I felt a lot of fear traveling with Malta on the Jamalian ship. We feel her fear. Every time she has to go out of the cabin and she's in sight of the sailors, we feel how vulnerable she is. And, we have Cirilla earlier in the story. She is horribly assaulted. We don't stay with her.
No.
Fantasy in general does that a lot, where we're going to have this abuse of women happen, but we're not going to look too closely. We're just going to go, oh, look, that happened. And we allow it as readers. We're like, okay, that's war, that's part of the story, whatever. And we're like, but we never really are asked to deal with it.
Yeah.
And throughout the trilogy, it's becoming more and more in your face.
Yeah.
And it's also becoming more and more in your face that it's not just women, because we do get to a point where we acknowledge that this has happened to Kenneth as a child.
And
so
like it
we are getting, all of that.
It. Sorry, brain wild.
Yeah. And so we're being forced to go, it's not just a story beat. This has impact. This has long-term impact. And it's an important piece of storytelling for me, personally, to be shown this is not just to explain war or whatever. And then we have to travel with Althea past that moment.
Yeah.
And how she then copes from then on, or doesn't, as the case may be. That's an important part of the journey, in the same way as we've traveled with Fitz, with his trauma. We see him, we see it after his rebirth out of the dungeon. He's learned that if I hurt them first, they'll leave me alone. That's a trauma response. That's there's a word. Documented. That's a documented response to physical bullying, is that person can become overly aggressive in response to, well, I'm going to be the bully.
Yeah.
Rather, and we see that in Fitz. We see that ongoing trauma in Fitz. And, those lessons of trauma right through. But we get all of those reveals with Kenneth and with Paragon. And we see Paragon heal Althea. Did you have thoughts around that healing of Paragon, by Paragon of Althea?
It obviously because she didn't want to say anything to Brashen about it. And by the way, I did. I wasn't sure how her reaction was going to be written, and because she was drugged and things like, and obviously other people around her were trying to gaslight her into it like not happening.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how she was going to be written in terms of her being switched on about it actually happening.
Yeah.
So the fact that she was telling everyone, like, no, this happened. He did this to me, like out in the open straight away.
Yeah.
Was really not something you see, not the way you see that story told. When that kind of thing happened. It's not.
And
yet usually
the reaction is.
Yes.
That whole.
God, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
He's not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Did you misread the situation?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And she's like screaming like till she's blue in the face, like, no, this thing's real. And they're still like, well, maybe not.
Yeah.
So, you know, because there was that part of it, and obviously the person that she couldn't tell was Brashen, and that's the person that obviously she wanted to more than anything. Like, he was hugging her and she was like feeling all close, but like really mixed with her feelings. Oh, it was so hard. So, you know, when Paragon did sort of take her pain, because he took her emotion, did he? He took her emotion from it, not her memory
trauma.
of it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. He didn't take the memory. He just took that emotional baggage of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that she could talk about it. And I guess, I mean, but you know, then there's the thing of like, how much can you heal from something if you don't have that raw emotion there as well, because you need to deal with it as it is rather than just a memory of the thing.
Yeah.
So there's that part of it which is a little complicated, but I get it, you know.
Yeah. Oh no, you do. You've literally just done the thing that's really important for me. That he took the emotion, that trauma baggage, not the occurrence. He left her the memory. She still has to process that memory. What he's taken is what Kenneth gave her. Kenneth gave her the pain and the shame and that worthlessness. And I did struggle with processing that. I was like, I don't like that that's magically gone away. To the point where I talked to my therapist about it. I was like, it really bothers me that happened. And she was like, I haven't read it. You're going to have to explain. And so I've tried to. And she's actually eventually said to me, it's pretty much what therapy does, though, in the first year, is we don't even look at the event itself. We try and deal with those feelings of shame and anger and betrayal and pain before we even address that. So really, from what she figured out from what I told her, she said, we've just skipped maybe a year and a half of counseling. She's going to go through the same stuff. And that really helped me be okay with how that went. But it also impressed me because I'm like, oh, Robin Hobb knows her shit, man.
Yeah.
She really knows her shit.
Yeah.
But then we get on to we get the big reuniting of all the ships and all the people, and we decide where everyone's going to go. And
can I just ask you a question before we move on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Paragon took that into him, the emotion, you know, like you say, the shame and everything else. How do you think that affected Paragon? Like, because he was already quite a mixed up person, you know, lots of unresolved issues with him as well.
There are a lot of, and Paragon's story isn't finished.
Okay.
There is, for me, Paragon, as we learn through the book, is much, much older as an entity than just the ship. And as an entity, he's greater than merely person. He's big enough to encompass it and understand it and absorb it healthily, which is a strange way of saying, but he's big enough to encompass it and not have it taint him further.
Yeah.
For me also, there's a healing that comes when Kenneth dies and he takes Kenneth into himself. There's a healing that comes from that, where Kenneth, all of the elements that should have been present in Kenneth his whole life are now together within Paragon. So there's a healed whole within Paragon as well. So there's an element of an internal healing above and beyond just dealing with that one event. Kenneth is now whole, and that can now be healthily dealt with
Yeah.
Because Paragon has the oversight to grasp that and to heal that trauma by taking it in and absorbing it and going, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
it happened. This was the thing that happened,
Mm-hmm.
which ultimately is what counseling tries to get you to do, is to deal with your trauma and there's a word, but integrate that and accept it as this is a thing that happened out of my control, whatever. But Paragon is able to integrate that healthily in as much as broken Paragon can, that because his story isn't finished, you've got more to come there. The difficulty for me was always the difficulty for Althea in living on Paragon. Even though Paragon is a different entity than Kenneth, there is an awareness in Althea that part of Paragon is that person. So that for me was always an issue. And later we can talk about that. But,
okay.
The interesting part of that, as you mentioned much earlier, was the partial forging of Kenneth. You know, that he wasn't capable of change. He wasn't capable of growth because he wasn't whole. And that's something that we learn in Tawny Man. And I've just realized I've skipped the bit I was going to say first, which was sorry everybody, but hop skippity jumpy. After everybody's been divvied out and everyone's on their ships and we get Paragon going, Egot took my eyes, but I could have come back here at any point. We get what to me is the biggest reveal of who Amber is when they find the treasure, and the only thing that Amber wants is the rooster crown. What part of that closing section was the most satisfying, do you think? Was it that reveal of the rooster crown, or was it that now everyone has this wealth and we can rebuild and do so much with it?
No, it wasn't so much that I cared about that everyone had the wealth. It was definitely it was the rooster crown, because we heard about it for so long beforehand. I think it was even in Assassin's Quest, wasn't it? That they said about that. So you know, the fact that my cat wants to come in.
That's all right. My cat's sitting next to the computer going, someone else had to let me in.
Hang on, she's gonna. I'm distracted.
I know it's been ages, Emily, but I'm just going to finally respond to your comment here about how impressive it is how long Kenneth was able to hide his true nature. That has always been the key thing for me of just how manipulative Kenneth was he knew his behavior was wrong because he hid it for so long. And that's why I don't tolerate this whole, well, it's just who he is, because clearly it isn't. He doesn't have to be that way. He's proven he can live as a nicer person and chooses not to. Anyway, that's my own personal rant at Kyle rather. Sorry, I just have to open my blind enough so the cat can sit on the windowsill instead of banging on the curtain. So okay, we've got the rooster crown and this reveal that to most people is the, you know, I knew it was that character. Some people don't figure that out until Tawny Man. I've spoiled people because they finished live ships and I've assumed they figured it out and gone, oh, you know that's, and not always. So I've learned not to say that anymore. But this is the full spoilers through the end of Tawny Man, so we're okay to go. By the point of the rooster crown, I'm very astonished with readers who haven't clicked that this is the Fool. This isn't somebody of the same race. It's not someone from the same school. It's the same character.
Yeah.
How early in the story did you pick that up, or had you already been spoiled on it?
I had a spoiler. I know.
Okay.
I was already partway through. I think it must have been Shiver Magic. I was partway through, and I knew there was something about Amber, especially when she was in the shop making them beads, and there was something about them wooden beads that was so significant. I was just like, what is going on with these wooden beads? Like, I'm supposed to know more about it, but I don't know what it is. And then, of course, when I saw some kind of it was supposed to be a safe video that I watched, and it said, "Oh, no spoilers past this point" or whatever. But they bloody did. I was just like, you need to rename your video and warn people. This is not fair.
Yes, that's not okay.
No.
No.
So unfortunately, I did see on a spoiler, but it didn't exactly hinder my experience of it, because I was just like, "Oh my god, you can see it! There's little
You really
hints,
can.
like it's a ball."
Yeah, all the way through.
Really happy. I was really happy to be reunited with the Fall without knowing it was the Fall. Like it wasn't spelled out,
Well,
so
this is the proof, though, of what I say is when you know it, it's there. It's on the page. There's nothing being hidden from you. It's all there. It's just making the connection and having the context for it. So I'm still a bit sad that wasn't there, that you didn't get the joy of that discovery for yourself. But the relationship between Amber and Paragon,
I know,
is just delightful. Because
that's what I was gonna say.
While we know that Amber doesn't know what the history of Paragon is and how Paragon connects to the greater story, we also know that there's a knowing. There's like, which seems illogical as a sentence, but that's the feeling. It's that there's an awareness that there's something more here in Amber that not many other characters have. And Paragon can see that, because he says some very open things to Amber that once you know, again, it's just open, it's on page. He's telling you, the thing. Oh, bless you, Thanol. Oh, sorry. Sorry if I didn't comment for a while. I'm feeling sick and was on my back for a while, but I've been listening. Bless you. Sorry, the table's just rocking. The cat's got into his bed. Okay. Because I had to put a box next to my laptop. Because
for the cat.
Cats,
Yes, of course.
That's one thing I will say. The Tintaglia, as she was revealed, as she was born, she is very cat-like in that you will worship me.
Oh yeah,
and what I say goes.
I'm drawing a blank when she is revealed.
When the sun finally falls on her, and Wintro and Rain have, they're left wallowing in the mud because she's got out, and she's like, screw you, and off she goes. Very cat-like behavior. Love me, love me, love me, rescue me, love me, rescue me. You rescued me. See ya.
Yeah. Don't need you now.
Yeah, I don't need you now. And she gets sort of guilted back into helping them.
Yeah. She's not happy about it, is she?
No, she's really not. But there's this wonderful sense of superiority in her, that you can see that there's going to be an issue.
Yeah,
because people don't like that.
No.
No. But I like it because it makes these characters have to face the fact that there's a thing I can't control out here.
I just think it would have been so easy to not like her and too easy to hate her just for that.
Yeah.
But seeing her for what she is, that she's a dragon, why would she care about humans? Look at the power she's got. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to call Mike out again. Mike's book reviews. He's not a fan of Hobbs dragons. He thinks they should be more regal or righteous. I'm like,
No.
why would they be? They're these incredibly powerful beings, retain all this memory. They genuinely know more than these short-lived humans. Of course they're going to feel superior. You'd be daft to think otherwise. So I love that while we've been given these incredibly ancient beings with all of these memories back to forever, they're also incredibly petty and selfish and like a cat. They're very in the moment. And I just love that. I think that's brilliant. Big fan of hobdragons. But that leads us finally into Tawny Man, where we get both lots of story come together, and we get Fitz and Fool.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to say about Amber and how.
Oh yeah, please.
With Paragon's face.
Oh my God, like, yes! Give me a face you could love.
Give me a face you could love. And I was gonna be Fitz. It's gonna be Fitz. And then, like, you know, that again,
you read it, you're like, it's bloody Fitz. How could it not be Fitz?
And that was also something that wasn't actually stated. It was just like you had to pay attention. And like
it's
said,
the broken nose and the
broken nose and the axe as well.
And you know, there's this very warrior-like bearing. And I particularly love when, as she's carving his face, Brashen says, was it Brashen? No, Althea. Why have you carved him with a broken nose?
Yeah.
And Amber gets really defensive immediately and goes, there's nothing wrong with his nose. You know, and I was like, oh, he's so beautiful. You know.
Yeah. Here's my Fitz. I love him as he is. Yeah. Oh, so good.
Because that's
and no one knew.
Oh. Because you're getting, it's an insight to Fool.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing a side of Fool that Fitz never sees. You're seeing Amber. And you're seeing a real devotion and a real caring love that Fool can't show Fitz. But when they're Amber, they can admit that side of that emotion. And yes, I'm going to give you a face that I love.
Yeah.
And it's done with love.
Yeah.
You know, for this character. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Love that so much.
Love it. And I'm not gonna skip ahead, but maybe kind of in a way. Just kind of Jack being the one that was there, and then what happens later on? I'm like, I knew it was gonna be Jack with Golden Fool and all that stuff. Anyway, we'll get there.
I mean, this is literally the thing. It's like from here we go into the Tawny Man, and we get Fitz and we get Fool, and eventually we do get that coming together of worlds where Fool has to face two groups of people who know them as two different people, and how do they navigate that? And I mean, it's made a little easier because there's only a handful of people who know them as Fool. Most people know them as Lord Golden. And so to the Bingtown people, he can say, yes, I'm Amber. I'm just putting on a front to be Lord Golden. Yeah. It's to a handful of people who know that they're Fool, having to explain to them that, oh, shit. Yeah. Kind of also me.
Yeah.
Me. And the hurt that puts in Fitz. Like, I understand his hurt. Oh my God, I wanted to slap him upside the head. You'll have seen it in Discord. I usually use capital letters about Golden Fool and the argument.
Oh yeah.
It's very CW. It's very miscommunication. It's almost teenage angst.
Yeah.
These two, with that argument, and yet it's also really poignant and really tragic. I don't know if you spotted it with when Fitz is playing Badgelock, the servant, and he's bringing Fool Lord Golden his breakfast tray every day. And every day a maid puts a little posy on the tray.
Yeah.
So Fool is getting these trays and these posies, right?
Yeah.
So Fool thinks that they're coming from Fitz.
Yes.
So for Fitz to then turn around and say,
Yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
never,
Yeah.
was more than Fitz realized. Sorry. Was more hurtful than Fitz realized, because Fool has been getting a message that Fitz hasn't given him. You know?
Yeah.
So for all the hurt and the heartbreak that Fitz is feeling for not being shown this part of his friend and now doubting everything he knows, Fool has been believing for most of winter that Fitz sees his affection and is saying okay with it.
Yeah.
And it's coming from completely different places. And this miscommunication is just, guys, could you get over it?
I know. Like,
But,
that is one of my most frustrating parts about Fitz, is his lack of emotional maturity.
Yeah. And
There's
we
so
do get a
many
reason.
parts of
But,
it. Just
yeah.
like, oh.
Yeah. There was how Fitz reacquainting himself with Buckkeep Town was a really lovely moment for me. You know, he reminisces about the things that he did in places as he was a kid. What were some of the key moments for you in Tawny Man?
That's quite a widespread question.
Hey, and that's it. It's like literally whatever it is you want to talk about, share.
I mean, key moments. It's got to be this second half of Paul's Fate.
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
that culmination of story. Yeah,
that entire thing blew my mind, and I didn't see it coming. And I remember saying in the Discord, like, when's things gonna happen? When are things gonna move along? Because it's kind of been the same pace, not as in like story, but like the same pace for like 2.5 books.
Yeah.
And this was supposed to be one of the best trilogies that exist in the whole world ever. Like, oh, come on then. But where is this? When's it going to
what
blow
are
my
you
mind?
not talking about?
Yeah. Which I trusted you all. I was just like, when is it going to change? When, like, and because they still hadn't even gotten to
Eslevial.
Yeah. By then, I was just like, what is happening? And it's not how the other books went. I really expected it to be like Assassin's Quest. Like the last book would be them, getting there, and then at the end, towards the end of the book, the main event would happen. Like they get Ice Fire out of the ice and stuff.
Yeah,
that's what I assumed. But because it wasn't that at all, I was totally thrown. And I remember you saying on the Discord, like, just kind of wait until everything changes. You're almost there.
Yeah.
And of course, it's when
yes, I was like, you're so close.
Yeah. Yeah.
To it kicking off. Yeah. And it does. And
changes completely.
I mean, for me, Tawny Man has so many emotional highlights. Obviously, he's beginning to dream walk and encounter Nettle. And that's really powerful. Because we're getting that relationship where she doesn't know who he is to her.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
And so it's this really unbalanced thing again of limiting the knowledge of what the other knows. And her strength. There's something very Malta about Nettle. There's real strength and sense of self in Nettle.
Yeah.
It's healthier than in Malta because her father figure was Burrick, not Kyle.
Yeah.
And I liked the insights that we had to Molly and Burrick's life together. I liked that it was a healthy relationship. I liked that it was balanced. I liked that they appreciated each other's strengths. They very much gave that to each other. And the relationship that Nettle had with Burrick was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that Night Eyes was able to have with Nettle. He saw her strength. He appreciated her strength in the few dreams that we saw where Night Eyes was also present. Yeah. Beautiful. We see a lot of trauma in Burrick because we learn in
Yeah.
Tawny Man that he wasn't part of any of the knowledge of what happened beyond the rescuing of Fitz from his grave. So we learn that Burke has literally spent the last 15, 16 years believing Fitz died because he couldn't live as a man because of his wit.
Yeah.
So his mistreatment, and it is mistreatment, of Swift takes on meaning because he lost a son to this beast magic. And he believes that wholeheartedly. He lost his son. And I still find it difficult to read his treatment of Swift, but I understand it. The situation with Swift, and that Fitz ends up having to message Nettle about his safety and where he is and all of the rest of it, leading to the reveal where he has to explain how he knows that only Burke understands, broke my heart. So I'm just thinking, I'm not going to cry. Because Nettle gives him the message from the dream about a wolf with a porcupine quill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Burke, you see the shock hit Burke.
Yeah.
Of, I know what that means. And he kind of goes a little mad, and he's like, you don't know what we've done to Molly, because she didn't see the reaction. She had her back turned. She didn't see the moment of realization that Burke has, where Fitz has been alive this whole time. And that broke my heart. It absolutely broke my heart. I mean, it was already broken to some degree because we lost Night Eyes. In Fool's Errand, which is strange that that's my favorite book, because the most awful, tragic, horrible thing ever happened in it.
Yeah.
But it's offset by the beauty of the first half. The level of grief and emotion throughout the story astonishes me even now. I can barely talk about it. When Molly's papa gets to Aslevial to fetch his son, basically just, how long did you cry? Like, how did you feel? Well, of course you felt like it was the best thing ever, because how could you not? Yeah. Share with me that moment for you.
With Burke,
when Fitz is ejected back into the snow, he comes back to the camp, and you feel when he senses Burke.
I was just like, he's right there. Of course he's there. Like, he's come all this way just to see him. It was huge, and we get very emotional as well. You know, there was so much going on at that time. Obviously, there was so many high emotions with their reuniting, and then obviously the fall and with the dragon and all that stuff as well was going on. But you know, the fact that he come all that way just to see him was I was just like, Burke is there. Of course he's there. But he's come all this way. But of course he's there. Why wouldn't he go all that way? And he couldn't see. He was losing his vision.
Yeah, he's losing his vision.
He had his poor leg.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know how to put it into good words, but it was a lot.
It is a lot.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It is a lot. And I mean, it's kind of strange, because you've done what a lot of people do, because it's we get it from Fitz, don't we? Is that Papa's going to bring him home. We all go for Fitz.
Yeah.
Burke's also gone there for Swift. You know,
Yes.
his son
Yes,
is
of
there.
course.
You know, so
Yeah.
yes, he's gone there for Fitz, but he's also gone there for his own son. And what got me is all of the stress and the high tension that Fitz is feeling because he's been chucked out of the death cave. He's had to leave the fall to be tortured. So he's feeling tortured because I've just left my friend to be tortured, and I have to do this thing, and this is all really stressful.
A bit weird.
And he's feeling the pressure, you know. And he goes,
You've frozen a bit, and the sound went all a bit funny. I was waiting for it to catch up. I didn't know what to do.
Are we back?
Okay,
hopefully.
Yeah, that's better now. Yeah,
you know, and he comes toward the camp, and then the chapter ends on the sentence, heart of the pack was here.
Oh my God.
He never let us come to harm. Oh, the sense of relief in Fitz is kind of magic, because you feel it too. You're like, yeah, Burke is totally going to fix everything.
Famous.
He does.
Yeah.
And he does. Because he's always been able to see to the heart at the back. He's always been able to see to the heart of a situation. And he does it again. And he says to Fitz, what are they getting from this? Think it through. And Fitz finally does. And he's like, oh, fuck, we're fucked. Shit. And then has to realize that he's then gone to Nettle, hey, can you get the dragon? And then gone, oh, fuck, I've just asked my daughter to go into a dragon's mind. Oh, my God, fuck.
Yeah.
Panic stations. And there's so many levels. It's so heightened. That whole situation is so heightened because we've also had the introduction of the wit coterie by then. So we've got Civil with his cat, and we've got Webb with his bird, and we've got all of the dynamics going on around Fitz and Fool and what their relationship is, because we have Civil thinking it's something really inappropriate, and that Swift shouldn't be associating with this person because they're a predator. And you've got people thinking that Fitz is not even a lover, but sort of below Lord, like being taken advantage of by Lord Golden.
Yeah.
And we get all of that dynamic happening. And we also finally see Fitz, when he talks to Civil, saying, he's more to me than that. And I don't care if you don't understand. I'm in here now with him. Which is beautiful, because we know that Fitz hasn't actually reached that level of mental acceptance. But he's getting there. Okay, he's getting there. So we've got all of that happening. And now we have added Burke to the mix. And now we've got a dragon to wake up. And I mentioned earlier in the stream, you know, how you felt about Night Eyes and Fitz's meeting, and how you very rightly said they kind of trauma bonded. You know, they were in such the same headspace. And we see that again as how Fitz forges the connection to Icefire, where it's his own memory of a dungeon, of being trapped, of being in pain, that connects him to Icefire, because Icefire is feeling trapped and he's in pain. And that emotional connection was necessary to form that mental bridge, that connective point that he could then go, Nettle, could you? And then, oh, fuck. My channel's broken and I can't sense her anymore. We've found at this point, when they arrived on Aslav Jarl, we saw Fitz finding the stone blocks that didn't make it to the cave and be carved into a dragon. But we see him sense the forged souls of the people that he killed. Back in Farseer. And so underneath all of this is guilt. That he killed those people. even though they hadn't actually died.
Yeah.
That they had themselves stolen. There's so many levels in it.
There is.
But that understanding of what forging was, this removal of memories. And then we meet the Pale Woman's Guard, who we discover have been somehow partially forged, suddenly informs us about Kennett. And we're like, oh, okay. That changes how we see Kennett and what he was capable of.
Yeah.
And that, yes, he was irredeemable. He also didn't have much choice about that. He didn't have a full he didn't have a full deck of cards. He wasn't capable of growth, of change, of becoming better. And so while, again, as you say, I'm not an apologist, I'm not saying what he did was in any way acceptable. It becomes more understandable because he wasn't whole. He was literally a broken person. But you get that context in Tawny Man. And I know a lot of readers get to this and they're like, oh my God, all of this is happening. There's still like 200 pages left. What else is going to happen?
Yeah.
Because the falling action is really satisfying because you get a lot of answers in that. Was there any reveals in that final section that you genuinely were like, oh my God, that makes everything make so much sense? You know, were there any of those, or were there moments that you're like, that's something I love knowing?
Well, the whole like you said about it earlier, the dragon in that the Pale Woman had.
The card dragon.
You know,
Cable raw bread.
Sorry?
Cable raw bread.
That's it, and how he was like sucked into him as well, and that was so messed up, like feeding him bits of humans. Here you go, have a leg. But you know, I was waiting for confirmation of actually knowing what forging was. And I didn't think that I was, because I'm always a bit like skeptical, like, is it, am I leaning into this here or not? Like, but even when even when Fitz found the stone dragon on the beach and they said about forging, then I was like, but is it actually, you know, I wasn't sure quite then. But then when they were in the dungeon, oh my God, I just had another thought about when, oh my God, the Pale Woman tried to trick Fitz into getting on her side and the fall was literally into the wall.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's so tragic. Because I'm going to let you lead with that bit of the story because I'm too invested.
Well, I don't know.
And how that went. But
it was so tragic. The entire thing, like how you know, he went missing, didn't he? And then like it was like, oh, he's in the dungeon, and then Fitz goes to then they warn him. They're just like, don't free the dragon. He's like, oh, I won't free the dragon, otherwise the fool will die. And then he frees the dragon anyway. It's just like, oh well, my friend's gonna die, but maybe that's okay.
But it's what he wanted. He knew he was going to die. I will have to be okay with it, you know. And it's awful because Eliana and Piotr rescue her mother and her sister, and they come out and they say to him, your friend he didn't survive. There's no point in you trying to go and rescue him. And then, you know, Thick saying, don't see me, I'm staying. I'm not getting on a boat.
I really thought that was a really good tie-in with the you just said them. Was it step mum and aunt or something? I'm not very good at remembering.
That Eliana's mother and sister, or
because there was so much. There was so much backstory and mystery around those two, and her uncle was like, he seems so much more harsh about the desperation of like, this is what we have to do, and this is how again how you have to play it, and you know, be this way, so that so that we have access eventually to freedom. And that whole thing, like when they actually freed them, I wasn't expecting them to be able to do that, but that was really cool how they did manage to do that. And then it made me think, oh, there's hope for the Fool then. Like, apparently not. You know, and then when Fitz had to go get him out of the cold and the ice, and the whole thing with his back, and he'd already been chained to the dragon and left there, and God, like when he was being forged, like with this, it was so horrific, so horrific, and you just, you know, so cinematic as well, just like you could see that happening, like in a really sort of good film, just like the pale woman, you know, being there and just enjoying this tragedy that's happening, and enjoying them being traumatized by it and the pain and stuff, and how she used beloved against him. Oh,
yes, that was a killer.
So much. Yeah, just with all of that, and then I don't know if I'm skipping all over the place, but you know, when Fitz actually gets him out, and they do that whole thing, which was just, that made me cry. That was, I don't cry very much at like books and things, but I was just, that got me when he was like in his arms and they're like sharing, you know, their souls, and like Fitz finally called him by his own name, because there was all that thing happening as well that obviously the Fool had said about books ago, you know, about the significance of that, and you know, calling me
and
by
giving
your
each
own
other
name.
names.
Yeah, and the whole beloved thing, like, what was it, when I call you beloved, you know that I'm sort of secretly telling you that I love you in a way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's Hobbes as you wish.
So much emotion. You know, with the ending of that, that's when I got it. That's when I was like, oh, that's why people love this. You know, and because yeah, I just, you struggle to get that level of raw emotion and grippiness with a film or telly, you know, like more sort of easier media to portray these emotions, because you can literally make the actor, you know, act out these things. But to write it in a book with all this stuff going on, and you just get it, and it makes sense, because there's the thing as well, it's not just these characters are going through this amazing experience, and you know, Fool's being brought back to life by Fitz, but there's all this other stuff that happens around them, like all the world building, and it just seems so magical, and there was so much of a payoff, I thought, with that whole scene, and like with I didn't understand them things that were meant to be flying around his head, like that was part of the crown, and they were like in the crown
feathers, the stone feathers. Yeah.
But wasn't there like spirits?
Yeah.
But they were in,
like we've had with the stone that contains the spirit of forged ones. What we learn is that as minstrels, they were allowed to they were allowed by the dragons to put themselves into the stone feathers. And so to be given a feather to put yourself into was an honor.
Yes.
And they were horrified that Fool was part of this collective, wasn't even in a feather, was in the crown itself. They were horrified by this.
Yeah.
But that was what the Fool treasured, was these minstrels, was their stories and their songs.
Yeah.
And for that to be Fool's treasure, is beautiful, and again tells you so much about Fool.
Yeah.
And that it had to be soaked in Fool's blood, and for it to then hold full forfeits to put back into his body.
Yeah.
All of this comes together from so much of what we've learned. We've learned that the stone will take form with memory, where we got from Farseer. We've learnt the wood will imbue personality because of its capability of holding memory. And we've had him being brought back from the dead by Boric while his soul was in Night Eyes. So all of it tied together beautifully to put Full back into his body.
Yeah.
That there'd had to be a body swap as part of that adds to it again, because they had to merge as they went into each other and return to their own bodies. And that moment of merge being so perfect and pure.
And they just saw each other so completely, didn't they?
They did. They both reveled in it. Like, this is beautiful, but we have to go back into our own bodies, or we're both going to die because we're going to forget to breathe. So we need to do that. And then I like that we got time with Full healing. Just the initial few nights in the courtyard. But I also like that when they came back to the island and Prilkop, the black man, that there was a separation, that he can't heal now because you're here.
Yes.
You're too close to it. He needs to be able to hide from the trauma, and he can't while you're here. All of this depth and introspective and deeply meaningful stuff. And yes, Takorific, you're exactly right.
Changer.
All of this beautiful stuff happening, and Thick has made a mudslide. You know, this innocence, this in the moment joy is beautiful to read. You're like, that's what Fitz needs right now. A little bit of don't think about anything. Just be in the moment.
Yeah.
Have a bit of fun. So, and then we get, you know, the return finally to Buckkeeps, and Thick doesn't have to get on a boat. Yay.
What was Thick's problem with was it just that he was seasick?
He was seasick. And I think because I believe quite firmly he's been portrayed as somebody with Down syndrome.
Yeah, I saw you saying that, and it just clicked. I was like, yes.
Well, you're told that his mother was old, and that is a risk as an older woman having a child. You're more at risk of having a child with that. And just the way he's portrayed physically, the shape of his face, and the way that he interacts with the world, that worked for me. I was like, that works for me. And I think the I don't want to use the word simplicity, but it kind of fits. The honesty that they take the world in with. When he gets told that you're going to die of seasickness, he believes that.
Right.
You know, the woman who looked after him had told him that so many times that he believed it could kill him. Like, he genuinely was frightened of dying of seasickness.
Yeah.
So to be forced onto ships, we know, made him desperately unhappy. And when he figured out that he could repel people and not let them force him onto a ship, he was like, I'm not going on another ship.
Yeah.
And yet his very straightforward brain can't comprehend that you're on an island. The only way to get home is on a boat. That doesn't factor into it. He's like, I'm just not getting on a boat.
They tried to tell him a few times.
Like, I'm not getting on a boat.
Yeah.
But then there is a way for him to get home through the pillars.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wonderful. And then comes my moment of joy in the books, because Patience bumps into him, bumps into Fitz in the garden. Yeah. And, you know, poor old Lacey passes out when she recognises him. Patience still doesn't until we get back to the room. And
so dramatic.
I just love her so much, you know, and then for her to be so angry with him, you know, it's like, how dare you die and then not tell me that you weren't dead? How dare you? I felt that. I really did, because she loves him so much.
Yeah. And is Patience Fitz's mum?
No, she wants to be.
Okay, because that confused me.
She
And I
claims
thought,
him.
yeah,
Very much claims
definitely.
him.
Yeah. I thought that if she actually was his mum, then I just thought that it wasn't delivered great. But it makes
Yeah.
more sense if she's not. So
No, she's
yeah.
not.
That's right.
Chivalry got him on a woman in the Mountain Kingdom when he was negotiating trade passage before he'd even met Patience, and
Yeah,
then
okay.
didn't know about him until
Yeah.
he was living at Withywood, at which point it was dangerous for him to be around Fitz. And
Yeah.
Patience, again, with context, you can see it, it's not hidden, but Patience is barren. She can't have children. So she kind of
Oh,
goes a bit
yeah.
crazy at the concept that there's a kid out there that's not hers, that
I
he's
remember
had.
that.
So she doesn't
Yeah.
handle it very well at all. She goes a
Yeah.
bit, eh. And so there's no claiming of Fitz initially because
Okay.
she's not okay.
Yeah.
But when after Chivalry dies and she's kind of come to herself already by that point, she comes to the castle because she's like, well, they killed my husband. The ephemeral they killed my
Yeah.
husband, because Patience
Mhm.
doesn't know who masterminded it. She's gone, they're going to try and kill his son.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
And okay, I didn't know that was going to make me emotional.
Oh.
So, but she's come to the castle to protect him,
Yeah.
not knowing that she's just drawing more attention to him and putting him more at risk. And Fitz
Yeah.
says it at some point in one of the books where I was the only reason she was there. And she
Yeah.
hated it there. But she
Mhm.
came.
Yeah.
And she claimed
Yeah.
him fully.
Yeah.
She's like, no, he's my son.
Yeah. Wow. So
Oh,
much.
yeah. I
Just
loved that they
yeah.
reunited. I really
Yeah.
did. I liked getting to know Riddle. I thought he was lovely. I liked getting to know Burrick's boys that we got to do.
Hmm.
And
There's so many of
learning that
them.
they were. But then he deserved a family.
Yeah,
He was a good
definitely. It was just a
man
lot to
and
keep
he
up with.
deserved a family.
Yeah.
And yet in all of this, and all of the tragedy of Fitz and Molly, there was the underlying tragedy of Burrick and Patience,
Yeah.
because that was their unrequited love.
Yeah.
And again, with the cycles of
Yeah.
behavior,
Mhm.
just insanely marvelous, just wonderful,
Mhm.
wonderful stuff. Um,
So many.
the wonderful thing in reread, and it's really quite remarkable, is the first time you read Farseer and the first time Fitz meets Burrick. Okay, he's a little boy. He's been given to this guy. They've shown up in the mess room. Everybody's going, oh, Patience isn't going to be happy about this. You know, there's a kid. Clearly nothing wrong with chivalry. You know, and Burrick stands up, and he's just been injured. The injury that lames him has happened, and he stands up, and without even saying a word, everybody's like, oh, okay, I'll be quiet. Maybe I
Yeah.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
mocking.
It just shuts them up.
You know, and you get Fitz, and you know, looking back at writing the story, that even then Burrick had the power to quiet a room with just a look.
Yeah.
And being like, wow, okay, this guy's scary. On reread, you realize it's not because they're mocking anybody and going, well, funny chivalry, blah, blah. It's because they mention Patience in a negative way. And the reread, you see that. You see that it's the reaction from Burrick to Patience. Don't you mock my lady.
Yeah.
And that context that we don't get until quite late in the piece is in actually that's not true. It's in Royal Assassin. It's in the second book. That's not late at all. Feels late, but it's not. Yeah, it informs a lot about who Burrick is and his honor and
yeah,
his steadfastness and all of these things. He deserved a family in the
yeah,
same way as
definitely.
Molly deserved a family.
Yeah,
She loves this boy who never told her who he was, who never explained what he did for a living, who didn't
yeah,
share any of his life with her. She was in the dark about almost everything.
yeah,
She loved him anyway, and just got, I don't know, shafted ultimately. I mean, she lost her family, she lost her
yeah.
business, she lost everything. And then the boy that she thought she knew turns out to be the bastard, and she
Mm-hmm.
knows nothing. I mean, the poor woman
Yeah,
flees with her bastard baby, who now is far more important than she ever thought the baby could be,
yeah,
and discovers this really good man in Berwick.
yeah.
And a lot of people struggle with the age difference. Berwick wasn't that old. Just saying. And
What was the
Molly
age
was
difference?
older than Fitz.
Yeah.
So it's an important distinction. And
Mm.
so I'm happy that they had that time together.
Yeah.
Taco, I am going to come to this. And you were mentioning about Patience not being Fitz's mum. There is a scene in Royal Assassin
Yeah.
of a woman shouting at him in the market.
Yes.
And at the time, you're just like, who is this mental woman? And because we never get that revisited.
Mm.
I read it and I recognized it for what it was, because I was partially adopted. I never knew my father. And when I was a teenager, I made a whole high drama thing about the fact that I didn't know my father. I could walk past him on the street and not know him.
Yeah.
So for him to walk past someone on the street and have
Right.
them
Ooh,
shout a
yeah.
name at him, it was clear as day to me. I was like, oh my God, that's his mother. Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah.
So few people pick up on it, because not
Mm.
everybody has that experience of
Yeah.
going, I could not know them. And it just seems just like a really random happening of madness
Yeah.
in the market. But it is his mum, and she is calling Keppert.
Yeah.
When we later have Kettle, or Kestrel, as she turns out to be in Assassin's Quest, and she unlocks his own walls that have protected his memories of his mother, because he's done that to himself.
Yeah.
We get the memory of him being called Keppert.
Yeah.
That, yes, that is who he was. And it's not a significant piece of the story, but the important pieces are there. If you need them, they're there.
So do you know
I
why?
love that she included them.
Yeah. Do you know why he didn't then sort of adopt that name in any way?
Well, by
Like
that
if you
point,
knew
he's
that.
an adult. I mean,
Yeah.
he's 35.
Yeah.
By the time he gets the rest of his soul back. Yeah, he possibly would have if he hadn't given himself to Girl on a Dragon at the end of Assassin's Quest, because he had the knowledge at that point. But we're specifically told he gave his memories of his mother to Girl on a Dragon.
Yes.
So he's not going to take that name at that point. By the time he gets them back at the end of Golden Fall, he's in his mid-30s. He's 35, 36. He's been Fitz or Tom his whole life. So it would be weird to pick it up at that point.
Yeah.
But it's, again, we brought back to the concept that memory is person. Who you are is formed of memory. And if you don't have your memories, you're missing part of who you are.
Yeah.
And that's a running theme throughout.
Well, I picked up on, the significance of two things early on, and it has been an ongoing thing, is the importance of memory and the importance of naming stuff.
Yeah.
And that even is with the serpents. Obviously, they, with what was I going to say? Oh yeah, with the fool, like saying, like, if you call me by your name, like, that is more significant than you calling me by my name.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, and also with the serpents, and they were looking for She Who Remembers, and they couldn't remember her name, and
Yeah.
that was significant. And
Yeah.
even with oh god, yeah, Paragon, wasn't it like when he realised he was part dragon, he named his dragon part, so he knew that he was like 2 parts?
Is
That right?
one of the reasons that Paragon wasn't altered by the news that his wizardwood was once a cocoon for his dragon is because he always knew he was 2 dragons, because
Oh,
he's
maybe
the
that's
only
what
ship that was 2 dragons.
okay.
And because the 2 dragons were so busy fighting themselves for dominance, they weren't sort of covered by this other personality. They existed sort of outside of this personality that was created on top of them. And so while he appears mad, it's literally because there are 2 dragons in his form.
Yeah.
The flip side to that is you've got all the personalities of these dragons who have then taken on the memories of the people who have died on board, and a lot of people have died on Paragon.
Yeah.
I wonder, because this isn't stated in the books, I wonder if which piece of the ship the blood fell on impacts which dragon got the memories.
Oh, yeah.
Because then we end up with even more separation between the dragons. Are we how fractured is Paragon? Very. I can think of lots of reasons why. So, yeah, there's just so many layers in this story about self and agency, because we're told the ships don't have agency. They're sentient, but they're slaves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
but
commentary around slavery.
Yeah.
What it does to an economy, what it does to a society, what it does to a world that allows it. There's so many layers you can talk about these books. It's kind of crazy.
I know. It's not so many layers. You just reminded me of something else. The 9-figured slave boy, which is obviously Wintrow.
Yes. That Amber was looking for.
Yes. So in Goldenfall, around the time that Fall is telling Fitz about their experience with the dragons and things, and the Fall confides in Fitz and says, "There's something that happened in my past, and I don't know if I took the wrong path." And I think it's because at the end of around the end of Live Ships, like he's saying, like, I followed Athena, but or was it Athena?
Althea.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. But should I have followed Wintrow?
But he couldn't find Wintrow, and that was the thing. And it was only as the story came, together again, because Amber doesn't meet Wintrow until after Paragon burns,
and then
they get rescued by Vivacia, and she's like, "That's the 9. This is who I should have followed."
Yeah,
but she's ended up there anyway. So this is where Full questions. It's like, did I take the wrong path, or is the fact I had to go another way better?
Yeah. But then I wondered, like, what if that was the better path? I mean, maybe we'll find out, because obviously I haven't read the last 3 episodes. I'm partway through Rain Wilds, but I was thinking, like, if Amber had. Sorry.
I mean, what could have changed? We will never know if she'd attached herself to Wintrow.
No, but like,
had she been,
whilst it's like that way round that it happened, like she followed Althea and then happened to meet Wintrow. Is there still significance in the Fall or Amber and Wintrow's coming together, the relationship? Like, do they have a path to walk together still, or is it just, this is actually as far as I got, and therefore I'm going this way because this part of my prophecy stuff is done.
I've always looked at it in that needing to find the 9-fingered slave boy is because he was important to the prophecy, not that Fool needed to influence or direct or anything, but that the prophecy included a 9-fingered slave boy. So I have to find this slave boy to make sure the prophecy goes the way it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 9-fingered slave boy was hugely important to the story. Wintrow was key in the connection being formed between Kennet and Vivacia. Wintrow was incredibly vital to the serpents because he frees She Who Remembers. He
abomination.
But that whole thing, Wintrow was really key to a lot of central things. And so yes, he will have been the totem, if you like. This 9-fingered slave boy will have been the hook in the prophecies for Fool, because all of those things had to happen for the freedom of the serpents. By attaching himself to Althea, however, he gains a connection to Paragon that wouldn't have been formed had he connected with Wintrow. Like, he wouldn't have met Paragon. He wouldn't have been part of Paragon's story. And yet Paragon becomes so much more important to the story because Paragon leads him to the Rooster Crown, which is so important then in Tawny Man. So Fool questions themselves. Fool is really lost there. Like, I don't know if what I did was right. Because at this point, we haven't seen the value of the Rooster Crown. We haven't seen that, no, you definitely took the right path because it led you to something unexpected. It led you on this path to beating the prophecies, to winning, essentially, your outcome over the Pale Woman's. And
that
it's wonderful.
Yeah, it is, because, like, obviously he thought that the prophecy was that, he wouldn't make it. And if he hadn't have gone that path that he did in Life Ships, then maybe he wouldn't have, because he wouldn't have had the crown.
And the prophecy isn't to an end. That's something that we often lose too, is that they talked about it as standing on a mountain and seeing other mountaintops above clouds. They can't see the path from this point to that point, but knows that point is where we need to get to.
Right.
But that there are more points beyond that. So each step, each part of prophecy that they fulfill gets you to the next mountaintop. We don't know what the last mountaintop could be, but we know that mountaintop was bringing dragons back. Okay, we did that. The one before that was keeping Fitz alive. Okay, we did that. So
quite a lot of that.
Each prophecy is only a link in the chain. So
definitely.
At no point do we go, we have fulfilled the prophecy.
No,
because each one leads to the next. But Fool has never seen beyond the one that leads to dragons coming back. They know that more happens, and that another prophet will one day come along and take the path wherever it needs to go. But that Fool's part ends there.
And at the same time, as you saying, at the same time as you saying that, well, then maybe you just kind of answered what I was going to say. Because obviously he was supposed to die, and then he doesn't. And then he's like, well, I don't know what to do now. It really reminded me of, like, the end of Buffy when they saved the world, and she's like, well, I'm not the Slayer anymore. What am I going to do with my life?
Now what? I always think of Inigo Montoya. Okay, I achieved my revenge. Now what?
I don't know that one. Who's that?
From The Princess Bride. Please tell me you. The Princess Bride.
No. I'm not familiar, sorry.
Okay, that is your task for this week, and that is to watch The Princess Bride.
Okay.
This is a must-see movie.
Okay.
Like,
well,
it just is.
Okay. Okay.
It just is.
Okay. I've heard good things about it. The reason I haven't seen it is because I wanted to read the book, but all right, I'll
No,
watch
you
film.
don't. Well, the book happened after the movie,
Oh, that's rare.
even though it's based on a book.
Okay.
There's a whole story there. Don't worry about it. Watch
Okay.
the movie.
Okay, I will watch it then.
Yeah. And yeah, please, you must before the next time I talk to you.
Okay.
It's a very important piece of storytelling.
Okay.
It's I like the unknown for Fool because all of Fool's life there's been an objective. Like, okay, I've got to do the thing because I need to do the thing because I need to do the thing, and they're driven to it. Like they can't escape it. They can't not do this.
Yeah.
Which we got to look at the beginning of Fool's Errand, when they have this wonderful couple of weeks where there's no objective. They just get to be in each other's space and enjoy each other's company, and it's just,
when are they going to get together? Don't tell
beautiful.
me that. It's all and not all I want, but I want them to just be together and just love each other and
that's the thing, is that's the only time that, you know, through to this point that we've seen them just be in each other's space and enjoy each other. And then comes the morning that Fitz gets up and Fool is packed. And Fool's like, I actually have to get back to work now and save the world.
Yeah.
You know, because they're driven to it, that they realize that this has been a break because I haven't had anything I immediately need to do. But now that I do, I've got to go, and I've got to go now. And that drive, that's possibly the only time we see it being something that Fool doesn't necessarily want to be doing.
Yeah.
But that he's driven to it.
But definitely quite happy just to stay.
He'd have been delighted to just stay. Yeah. But unfortunately,
I thought that was going to go somewhere. Was it?
I think it was more, and Fitz kind of comes to it as well. It was more about bringing everything to a bubble in Fitz. Like, you're all settled, and you're all sitting here just, pottering around. I'm just going to bring everything to the surface. I'm just going to get you to remember all of the things that you are royalty, that you are a part of this royal line, and that you possibly still have a part to play. And by bringing all of that to the surface in Fitz, we see how unsettled he is until Hap comes home, and we see him kind of go, oh, fuck, okay, yeah, I have really settled, and I haven't actually done anything. And and you see him become restless because Fool has brought all of this to the surface.
Yeah.
And he's done it with the carving, and particularly the buck on the table.
Yes, that's the one.
Making it so prominent and in his face, you know, that this is a big part of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's that reminder again to Amber that this wood carving is important.
Yes.
You know, that it's part of who Fool is. Although when he took back the silver on his fingers, that was so sad.
Oh my god! What? I mean, that was obviously like to disconnect them, but when that happened, it said in Assassin's Quest, I'm sure if it said that they could never be removed. No. So how were they then removed? He didn't say that.
No, he did. So they couldn't be removed.
They can't be.
Fool did.
Right. Okay. Okay. Cryptic, but all right. Okay.
It's more a question of they don't know what it can and can't do.
Okay.
Because there's no skill people to teach them. You know, the skill mistress had been polished off early by Regal and Galen. Galen didn't know everything, and even if he did, he wasn't sharing it with Fitz. None of the coteries left to teach Fitz. There's nothing to teach Fitz, so they don't know what the skill can do. They don't know anything about it. You know, they have to learn as they go.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, in Assassin's Quest, when Verity put his arms into the skill river, I got I think my cat's probably there. I'll see how it goes. I don't know. I got the impression even then that the skill river was to do with memory.
Yeah.
Is that yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
But and this is it. Skill is more than they know.
Yes.
They've given it as many labels as they know.
Yeah.
They're still learning what it can and can't do. And you're in Rain Wilds, so you're going to get quite a lot in Rain Wilds. Rain Wilds is where a lot of the lore will be explained.
Okay.
So you'll get a lot of answers in the back half of Rain Wilds. Where are you in Rain Wilds now?
I have my Kindle. I haven't got too much left. Dragonhaven. I'm reading Dragonhaven.
Okay, so you're in the first half.
Okay. Yeah. Page 405, got 79% in, so about 20% left of the second book. Yeah,
because the first two books were written as one book.
Yes, so I saw that. I saw you say that last night. I should have known that before. I'm just gonna
and not a lot of people do, and it's literally comes down to the publishers getting in the way.
Yes.
When it happened, it was at the absolute height of hype around this new flash YA genre, and now we've got Robin Hobb, this amazing author, writing about young people. We're going to milk that for what it's worth. Split it, make it 2.
That's what it was.
And
pad
it out. So those first 2 books are one with more than what would have been there otherwise.
Would have been.
And kind of the same thing with the last 2. They were written initially as one book, but that one just had too much in it and needed to be split because it was too good. So the quartet should have been a duology.
Okay.
But you're still in the first half. So I know where you're up to. The second half is where you really start to get the reveals.
Okay.
And there will be some very satisfying moments in that second half, and a lot of things that will call back into Assassin's Quest. So,
interesting. Okay, good, because I mean, I did hear like quite a lot of I don't know if it is negative, but not as glowing love.
No, it's negative. There's a lot of negative noise around Rain Wilds.
So I'm just like, I'm still going to read them. I don't care. I was part of these.
I really,
I'm going to read them.
It took me a long time to appreciate them for what they are. And I thank AP on the channel A Critical Dragon for that, because he literally taught me I was reading them wrong.
Really?
And that I wanted them to be something they weren't. In that, because I was reading them as they were published. There'd been a big gap after Tawny Man, and she'd written the Soldier Son trilogy that I don't love. And so when I came back to Realm of the Elderlings, I wanted it to be so much different than what I got. I was like, this is not, this isn't what this wasn't on my order. And I fought it. Essentially, I was what AP calls reading against the text. And many years later, after I discovered AP's channel and I learned I was reading it wrong, I tried it how AP suggests that you do, which is actually just let it be what it is.
Yeah.
You'll find it works better for you. And it really made a difference. Like, such an amazing difference to just let it be what it is. It's a new story in the same world that's going to connect eventually.
I think that's kind of part of the trouble, is it's like the third, fourth set of books, and we're starting again. Like, how many?
This is something that happens in A Song of Ice and Fire, and it's why people don't like A Feast for Crows so much, because the first 3 books cover a lot of story arc, and they come to really satisfying conclusions. The story is clearly not over, but a lot of the big arcs have reached an end, and it's a very climactic book. It's very satisfying to read. And then we go into A Feast for Crows, and we're picking up a new set of characters who previously haven't been part of the story, and now we're following these people. And so people are like, I don't like Feast for Crows. Until they reread And because they now know that this is new people and we're starting with some new storylines, they enjoy it so much more because they're not expecting it to be a continuation from Storm of Swords. And the Rain Wild suffers from that because we've come off this amazing emotional high of Tawny Man, because it is an amazing emotional high. And now we're starting from scratch. You know, I say in one of my videos, it's like running into a brick wall. You're at absolute full tilt of enjoyment, and then bang!
Oh, what's this?
Okay, we've stopped dead in the and we're starting again. What the hell?
Yeah.
But if you're expecting that, you go, okay, I see the wall. I will stop. I will take a break, have a cup of tea, and start the next bit.
Yeah.
And you go into the Rain Wilds and you allow it to be what it is, which is new characters, new part of the world, new set of storylines, and let it take you where it's going to go. And my ratings on Rain Wilds jumped 2 stars easy.
Wow.
Just with letting it be what it is.
Wow, really?
And it has become even better each time I've reread it since then, which is a very different story to where I was even 5 years ago.
Right.
Which was going, okay, yeah, it's not the strongest part, but there's a lot of stuff in it that's really good that you kind of need for lore. So, read it because it's necessary. To now going, let it be what it is. It's far better than you realize.
Okay.
And it is, it's a rich addition rather than a necessary bit, and it, very much like Tawny Man, brings together Farseer and Life Ships. What you'll get is everything we had in that first trilogy, plus the Rain Wilds, come together in Fits in the Full to finish the story. Because what have you actually learned about Elderlings to this point?
Are you actually asking me?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a genuine question. To this point in the series that is called Realm of the Elderlings.
Yeah.
What have you actually learned about
Not as much as I thought.
No.
Definitely learning more in
exactly.
Rain Wilds. Yeah.
So you're getting really essential knowledge in this set, and that will be combined with the story from Fitz's journey in that final trilogy. And that's where you get Realm of the Elderlings. This is how it all ties together.
Yeah.
And all of the context that you've since had to Assassin's Quest, you're going to get more with Fits in the Full. It just builds on itself. And again, nothing's been hidden. There's no secrets. It's all on page. But you'll get all of the context. You'll get all of the understanding of what's gone into the world. And it's a hell of a journey.
Wow.
I mean, I really enjoy Rain Wilds. I do. Again, it's taken me a long time to get to that because I read against it for so long. I turned into a genie that was talking about Hob. Excellent. So long as I'm fulfilling wishes of Hob stories, this is good. So you dreamed of me. Oh, I'm so flattered. but yeah, I mean, when you consider some of the things that have happened for you already in the Dragon Keeper, Dragon Haven books, there's been a lot of character growth. You've seen a lot of the same themes that we've seen already in terms of agency and slavery and the value of personhood. And you've met Tarman. Tarman the Barge is wonderful. You've met some fantastic characters.
Yeah.
And a villain who's, potentially, I say potentially, that's not true. Evie will argue with me till the day we both die. She believes that Hest is a worse villain than Kyle. And she's got really valid reasons for thinking that.
Okay. I mean, when I first started it, I thought that Hest was quite like Kenneth. He reminded me a lot of Kenneth. But then I realised that it wasn't so much. Like Kenneth was Well, what happened? I think you cut out.
That's all right. No, Kenna is in a class of his own because of all of the nuances around that character. He's more than just a simple villain. Kyle, horrible person.
Oh God, no, not Kyle.
Hest,
not
a lovely person. I personally detest Kyle more, but I understand Evie completely when she says she detests Hest more than Kyle.
Okay, interesting.
So,
really? Okay.
You know, the character work is still there.
Pretty horrible. Yeah.
You know?
Just how he treats Cedric alone. I mean, that...
Exactly.
You know.
I mean, we're talking abused spouse on two fronts from this man.
Yes,
he's abused both people that he's involved with. And the toxicity of that is just horrible.
And
yet Elise is lovely. We love Elise. Elise is lovely. Leftrin is an absolute darling. The kids are kids dealing with kid stuff, but having to learn agency and responsibility and all of the things that kids have to learn while dealing with cats the size of trucks. It's a bit of a learning curve for them. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot still to come for you, but all of those ingredients that make Hobbs so fantastic are still there. You're just getting a new lens on them from a different corner of the world. And the second half of the trilogy gets less YA-ish. We get more plot than you've had to this point.
Good. So. I mean, I have been enjoying it. It's just you get used to the epicness, and then it isn't quite that for a bit.
Because you've hit that brick wall of hang on,
a little. I mean, maybe a bit softer than others, because I mean,
you had to take a break.
I have. But you asked me earlier if I've had breaks in between the trilogies and things. Like I've tried to read other things. I'm just like, I need to read that one. See what else. I can't finish this book first. I need to carry on.
But I mean, hey, I get it. This is the first year in over 20 years that I haven't reread the whole series.
You haven't? Why not?
I've had lots of other things to read, honestly. And the year started out really shit with lead paint debris all through my house and having to deal with that. And it just has been a chaotic beginning to the year. And then suddenly I'm like, holy shit, it's August. What the hell? And now it's September. It's like, what? Well, I don't have time now.
How long does it take you to read them all?
I try and space it out so that it takes me a year. It didn't used to, obviously, but there's so many of them now. But because I've read them as they come out, I never really think about how long it takes me. I'm just like, I'm just rereading now. And then suddenly it got to a point where I'm like, oh, there's no gap now.
Next book.
Do
you just read that, or do you read other things as well?
Oh, I read lots and lots of other things.
I don't mean just that over and over. I mean, when you're rereading the Realm of the Elderlings, are you just in that state?
No. That's one thing BookTube has taught me is I can read more than one story at a time. I do try and be, what's the word? Mindful. I do try and be mindful of what I'm reading with it, in that I do only have so much energy because of my mental health struggles, and Hob can be a lot, even knowing the story like I do. It's still a lot. So I usually marry it in with something light. That used to only be Terry Pratchett for the most part. I would read Terry Pratchett alongside. Over the years with BookTube, yay BookTube, I have now included the Dresden Files in that reread. I've read that 4 times now alongside Hob, and literally just this month gone, I've read the 6 Dungeon Crawler Carl books. I say read, I haven't read them at all. I've listened to them. Marvelous, by the way, absolutely hilarious. And so now I have like this stack of lighter things to read as I'm going through Hob. But, you know, because BookTube and the now exponentially enormous TBR,
Yeah.
there are now so many more books that I
Yeah.
want to be reading that now I have to build myself in a space between
Yeah.
a reread of Hob, because, you know, it's hang on, what have we got? You know, I lived to see the day when someone said that American Gods is badly written. I might need context for that sentence, Thanol. Where did that come from? I liked American Gods, but I was, again, reading against the text. You have to know it's a meandering story that's just a road trip. You know, you have to know American Gods doesn't really go anywhere. It's just a really long story about American Gods. But I've read so many things in the last couple of years. I really enjoyed Empire of the Vampire. Its sequel came out earlier in the year, which I blitzed through, and now I'm hanging out for the next one. So seriously, I've read so many things thanks to BookTube. It's really quite remarkable. And very few failures. Evie had me reading Simon Jimenez, The Vanished Birds. That I thought was beautiful. I've struggled with This Beer Cuts Through Water, which I will never live down because it's Evie's favourite book of all time. So I still haven't got into that one properly. I just can't. It just won't stick in my brain. But there are so many wonderful, wonderful books. So while, yes, I've turned Hob into my niche and gone, I know these stories. I live in these stories. These characters live in my soul rent-free.
Yeah.
She's not the only author out there who's amazing. She's really, I mean, she's among the best. And in some ways, I genuinely don't think I've ever seen character work like it anywhere else. In terms of world building, there are absolutely authors out there as strong. But, okay, Thanol. Context. No, my friend said that it's a badly written book with very shallow characters, more comic book than real book. In short, it's not like, say, Henry James. Of course not. It's Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman writes things that on the surface are whimsical, but if you put an ounce of thought into, are actually exceptionally deep. So perhaps have a word with your friend, Thanol, because they're reading it wrong. They need to do better, ultimately. So just saying.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot in American Gods in terms of human nature and the nature of faith. And anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today. I haven't read it for a long time, so I'm not as au fait with that as I am with Hob. But I mean, what do you like to read outside of Hob? Because you're new to Hob, and you know you're clearly a reader, but you've had your Kindle for a while now. So, what other titles have you got on there that you've either have enjoyed or look forward to?
I better have a look. I don't remember.
That's all right. I'm going to respond then to Thanol, who's gone, I found Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman about the smartest writers out there, maybe close to Shakespeare and such. I love that you've said that, Thanol, and I know that you've heard me say it. I think Terry Pratchett is as close to Shakespeare as our generation can come. The man has a gift with words. Evie said a wonderful thing when we were talking about Discworld with our friend Alan over at the Library of Alexandria, and he will hopefully post the video soon, where Evie says Terry Pratchett's Discworld isn't humorous. It's not funny. It's witty. And that's a really crucial difference because it is wit. It's about clever usage of words and imbuing humor into it rather than making gags. Not to say there aren't gags. Some of them have outright gags in them that are just really funny. But there's so much entertainment value in the clever usage of words that Terry Pratchett does. The beautiful hardbound collector's library editions of Discworld, these beautiful naked hardcovers. I mean, they are just lovely. I mean, look at that. You can see the foiling on it. if I can get the light to
I'm
shine on it
definitely
properly.
excited
There
to
we go.
get into Discworld, but I'm a bit apprehensive because of I know that you can read some on their own, but I think that because there's so
they're
many.
all standalones.
They are. I didn't know they're all
never read
standalone. Why didn't
Yeah,
anyone tell me that?
none of them are direct sequels. You can read them in any order you like, and you
All
won't
of
be
them?
spoiled. The trick with Discworld is to not be overwhelmed by the wall of books that it includes.
Yeah. Well, they're short, aren't they? They're not like.
Well, they began short, and they never get that big. Oh, thank you, Jacob. Happy Sunday. And Final saying, never read Terry Pratchett in other languages than English. It doesn't work as well. And no, it doesn't, because it is very English, and they're very British stories to some degree. The thing with the Discworld is the first few that were published are in what I call the beta testing phase.
Okay.
Okay. We weren't quite sure what we were doing or where we were going with Discworld. And then Neil Gaiman said to him, when he said, I'm done with Discworld, I'm going to do science fiction now. Neil Gaiman said, but could you write a story about Death character? Because I really like him. And Terry Pratchett was like, oh, I wasn't planning to. And then rang Neil Gaiman a couple of weeks later and just said, you bastard, and hung
Oh, no.
That's in the memoir. And Neil Gaiman's confirmed it. And then we had Discworld as it became. But the subsets they're traditionally known for, you've got Death, where Death is the central character, but not the main character. He's usually the B plot in the Death books. You've got the Wizards, which is a misnomer because most of the Wizards named books only have one wizard in them, and he's not with the rest of the wizards. He's usually a fish out of water somewhere very strange, doing really strange things.
Okay.
You meet the rest of the wizards usually in the City Watch books. The City Watch books are the guards of the main city in Discworld, and they tend to be police procedurals with other races. Like that's the one that will have trolls and dwarves and werewolves and other peoples of Discworld. Then you've got the witches. The witches live in the countryside and are witches as you imagine witches to be, and they concentrate on story and the ways people think and manipulating thought and story and words, the power of words. I love the witches. They're my favorite sub-series. Then you have, hang on, Death, Wizards, Witches, Watch, and there's the standalones. There's a handful of standalones that are true standalones with characters that don't go on to other stories, of which Pyramids is universally the weakest. There's the Industrial Revolution series that has a standalone and then has the Moist von Lipwitz books. They're all brilliant. The Truth is about the first printing press on the disc.
Are you trying to tell me to not get overwhelmed by all these books?
No, it's deciding what your focus would be. Like Death books are philosophical.
All right.
The Watch books are police procedurals. The Witches books are about story and words. The Wizards books are about fish out of water, stranger in a strange land, dealing with oddness that you're not familiar with. So the subsets are sort of themed around the characters, but all of them have a distinct story with an ending and doesn't form necessary information for the next book. So you can pick up any one of the books at any point and be able to just read it and have it make complete and perfect sense in its entirety. So depending on what sort of thing you like, depends on which sort of storyline I would point you at Do you like a police procedural? Do you like fairy tales?
Mhm.
Do you like industrial revolution, stir the masses? I mean,
like I said at the start of this, I just like good stories told well. I don't like if you would say to me, do you want to read a story about the Industrial Revolution? I'd be like, probably not. But if it's really good,
I'll
yes.
tell you what then.
Do you know what I mean?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 that are a really good place then for just good stories.
Okay.
One of them is a really early one in the series, and it's Weird Sisters, which is the one I just showed you.
Oh, I think I've got that. I think you've already got that.
Rather wonderful book.
On my Kindle.
This is the beautiful library Lakehead hardbacks. Good Omens comes in this edition, by the way.
Okay.
It's the only non-Discworld book that does. And Weird Sisters is a witch's book, and is glorious. It's Terry Pratchett. Once you've read a Terry Pratchett, you know why I can't really say more than that.
Okay.
And then there's The Truth, which is one of the standalones, and that is the first printing press. And that gives you a lot about the more citified people of the disc. And the last I would suggest as a starting point for you is Going Postal. And Going Postal is one of the later Discworld books. Like I think it's 30, 31 or 32. Like it's in the 30s of the published books.
Okay.
But it's completely new characters and stars Moist von Lipwig. Yes, his name is Moist. And it's brilliant. And I think it's a marvelous starting point for new readers to the disc.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah. I mean, lots of people will tell you Guards.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one. It's not one of my favorites, but it's a good one. Plenty of people say Mort, which is the first Death book. Again, it's a good one, but it's not what I consider to be one of the best. Weird Sisters I adore because it's brilliant.
I have the Light Fantastic, Small Gods, Night Watch. I think I have got the witchy one you said about. I've definitely seen
Weird
it.
Sisters.
Weird Sisters.
That's weird with a Y.
Yeah. And
W-Y. Yeah.
Carpe
Jugulum? Carpe Jugulum. That's the witches.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Of those ones,
and
I would go with Weird. They're good. Okay, of those ones, I would say go with Weird Sisters or Small Gods. The Night Watch, I would actually wait until you've read a couple of other watch books, more for the characters who will be mentioned but aren't fully developed in Night Watch. And
right.
They exist in other books where you get to know them better.
Okay.
And then it makes reading Night Watch better, basically.
Okay.
Because you know more about the people involved. No, Thano, I was about to get there, okay? Dearie, you are pushing a Dorabelle Deerheart up front, aren't you? Well, yes, I am. A Dorabelle Deerheart is a character in the Moist von Lipwig books with Going Postal and is just wonderful. She is a very angry woman and I adore her. She's fabulous. In fact, I love pretty much all of the characters in Going Postal. I like the Moist stories. I think they're really, really, really well done.
Okay.
And they're a great starting point. So Going Postal is highly recommended. But yeah, of the ones you've got currently, I would suggest Weird Sisters or Small Gods. Small Gods is a standalone. You won't meet any of those characters in any of the other books, but it's a really good look at the way he writes.
Okay. Well, I definitely appreciate your recommendations because it can
be scary. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, no, I think that just hearing you talk about obviously Realm of the Elderlings books and stuff. If you're recommending these, I'm going to read them. You know.
The wonderful thing with Pratchett is whatever level you feel up to reading, it's going to give you. If
That's
all
good.
you can deal with today is a funny story, then that's all you can get. That's all you need from it. That's what it will give you. If you're looking for commentary, if we go with Weird Sisters, if you're looking on commentary on nationhood, jingoism, storytelling, theatre, belief, then it will give you that. But it's also a really funny story if you just want to read a funny story. So you can look at it as deeply as you want to, and it will let you, because it's there if you want it. So, and not every reader either wants it or is capable of looking that deeply. But if you want it, it is there. And it's marvelous. It really is.
Interesting.
And yes, it does also give you cool cats. In Weird Sisters, you will meet Grebo, who is the coolest cat ever. Like, for serious. So, but yes, highly recommend Discworld. So the Light Fantastic that you've got there is one of the beta testing ones. So while you can read it and enjoy it, it's not what Discworld becomes. So that's think of that more just as a Terry Pratchett story rather than a Discworld story. Because it's not. And I agree with you also earlier, Arnold, that the Bursar is the best. The Bursar is one of the wizards who's a bit crazy, and you meet him in the not wizard books. You meet him in the watch books, because that's the craziness of Discworld. But yes.
No, definitely.
So anyway.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts. Whichever of them you decide to read first, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. Because I just... Well, not only because you're also a younger reader coming to them. So there's a different level of general knowledge. There's a different level of political environment. There's just... The world that you inhabit is very different to the world it was written in. And I would love to hear what you're able to take from the disc books, because I think they're timeless, except for soul music. But yeah, I'd be really interested to find out.
Cool.
Anyway, it's getting very late, and I know that you have a sort of time limit on this, so I am going to wrap up. Do you have any final thoughts about Robin Hobb's fabulous work, The Realm of the Elderlings?
I did have a question.
Yeah, by all means.
About Ketrican.
Yeah.
Why was she so okay with Fitz killing her brother?
Because this is the thing. She kind of wasn't.
No, but then afterwards, like after the fact that it happened, and they're like,
I think,
are in Buckkeep and stuff.
In the mountains, she was already promised to Verity. So her sacrifice, because she sees her sacrifice as being the pinnacle of who she is, her sacrifice was accepting the death of her brother. She knows it wasn't Fitz's choice. She knows he didn't do that deliberately, because she knows he was the victim of political maneuvering at that point. She was present. She knows it wasn't intentional from Fitz. Yeah. So while she blames the Farseer crown, she doesn't personally blame Fitz. What she learns in the interim, after coming to Buckkeep and dealing with Regal and all of the ensuing chaos as we get Shrewd's death and the usurping of power over it, she realizes that it wasn't even the Farseer crown, that it was Regal. So the forgiving of the Farseers at the beginning is part of her sacrifice. She's now responsible for the people in the duchies as well as in the mountains, and to make a big deal of it would be to disrupt the trade for both peoples to their detriment. So she has to suck that up for them. That's her sacrifice. She's got to suck that up. And then she comes to terms with the fact that it wasn't Fitz. It wasn't even the Farseers. So, and she's amazing. And far lovelier than anyone deserves.
Yeah.
I adore her. Like, fully adore her. Yeah, I think that in an ideal world that wasn't a story and therefore needed drama and conflict, that Fitz should have taken a run at it, because that would have been a really good pairing, I think.
Yeah, and there's definitely glimmers of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So never mind. Because I think she's amazing. I just love her so much. So between her and Patience, I adore them.
Are they your favourites?
It's hard to pick favourites, because I adore so many of these characters. Yeah. It's easier if I break it down. Like in Live Ships, I love Paragon. Paragon is my character from Live Ships. I adore him. He is everything. And it depends what about in terms of everything else. You know, if we're talking father figures, Burrick. Are we talking strong women, Ketrican? Are we talking intricate, amazingly deep characters who put on a front, Patience? If there's just, they're all amazing in their own way. And, you know, it's really hard to say I definitively love one over another. Yeah. Because they're all really well done. And they're all people that I like, except for the villains who I hate equally as much. You've done,
that you can't choose one.
You really can't, because they're all so good at being themselves. None of them are poorly written. You know, I just love them. I mean, even characters that I've come to love on reread. I mean, Blade, he's a guardsman in Farseer. You know, he's not even a tertiary character. He's like an extra. He's a background extra. And I love him. You know, there's a part to his story that you get in Fitz in the Fall that brought me to tears. And he's an extra. You know, she is just so good.
I know. Like the amount of there's so many characters, and there's so much depth in.
There really is.
So many areas, and even the ones that you don't see much, like Blade. Like it's just like even they have depth. Even they are significant in some way. It's not just, she doesn't just pay attention to the very main people.
She populates the keep with people who are lovely. Fedrin, you know, the scribe, who asks early on that you might actually be a really great apprentice, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, the possibilities of that could have been amazing. And then Shade kind of chucks cold water on Fitz and goes, nah, you won't be allowed out of sight of the keep anytime soon. So, you know, the scope that she gives the story and the integrity she gives all of the characters.
Yeah.
You rarely see it. You know, and then you add in the fact that very few fantasy stories sort of go beyond the main beating of the big bad. We don't get to see our heroes grow up. We don't get to see them get old. We don't see them ever reflecting on their choices as a young person. We see it with Fitz. You know,
It's going a bit funny again. I'm just trying to follow on what you're saying. It just sounded a bit
sorry,
electronic for a bit. No, it wasn't. It was all right. Just
but that's all right. But as I say, this is me trying to wrap up and opening 5 new subjects, and also stealing away from your final words about your experience with the series.
That's all right.
You know, what have you taken away so far, and what are you hoping for in the Rainwilds and in Fitz in the Fall?
What have I taken away? I don't know. I feel like I'm still processing so much of it, and I don't think that I'm gonna really grasp how much I've taken away until I've finished it all, and then maybe it's been like a month, or something. You know, then you can actually kind of think it through. And because at the minute I don't know where it's going in terms of bringing the two worlds together. There's obviously glimpses of it more and more, like in Rainwilds, but I still can't see how. And is what characters are going to come back from live ships. Obviously, it's called Fits of the Fall, the last one, so I'm guessing it's like still Fits' perspective. I'm sure that's right. Yeah, his POV. So it's like, how is he gonna then see these other people that we have had? We've already learned about them in not a one person POV. Like, we've already had our own experiences of it, and then how is he then going to see them? Are we going to recognize them?
That's a good question.
There's that sort of thing, because it's just one perspective. And what if they don't? Because he didn't understand about Selden.
Yeah.
When he was and he was like, who's this weirdo, like, covered up? He just misread people, and that's obviously happened before. I'm like, oh no, I know this person from this book, and he's not quite what you think.
Yeah.
So there's that, and obviously I want the thing that I want the very, very most is for Fitz and Fall to get together and be live happily ever after. And I don't know where Molly and the children come into that. I don't know, but that's what I want. And obviously, I have a impression that Night Eyes is maybe, I don't know if he's not going to come back properly, but just like his spirit or his essence in some way. And I know that obviously Fitz kind of, I'm just realizing you're sitting there judging me like, oh, this is right, this is not right.
I'm listening to it going, okay.
But just in terms of just, I don't know what's gonna happen with Shade and Thick, and just, there's so, like we just said, there's so many characters.
Yeah.
Are we ever gonna find out what happened with Chivalry properly? Even that, and just Brashen and Althea, Wintro. I don't know. There's just so many open-ended things.
Yes, there are.
That it is difficult to say what I want to happen, because I've also learned that I am absolutely rubbish at predicting what's going to happen in these books. I try, and I think I know what's going to happen. I'm like, okay, well, I think that's going to go there, but then it just doesn't go anywhere in that direction.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. That's fine. I feel quite open to where it's going to take me. And I'd rather that it took me on the journey rather than me deciding this is how I want it to be. And if it's not that, then I'm disappointed, because I don't want to. I'm not in that space.
Yeah.
I'm there for the ride. I didn't enter into these 16 books with any expectation. I don't want to leave with any,
That's awesome. No, that's ideal, really. So yeah, no, you've got a lot of fabulous conclusions and reveals to come, and I'm here for when that happens.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll have to do it again if you want, and like have a little
absolutely
post thingy. Huh?
Yeah, we've got to do the debrief, the full debrief.
Yeah.
All right. So with that fabulous news and my instructions to watch The Princess Bride and read some Terry Pratchett.
Yes.
We're going to probably sign off. Well, not probably. We're going to sign off. So with all of that said, we're going to love you and leave you. So thank you for coming to the stream, and thank you for watching back later if that's what you did.